frigid voice still echoed through the great hall. Zhao Min and several other girls kneeling on the ground looked ashen-faced, collapsing into the mire, too stunned even to weep. Lin Emo did not look back. He strode toward the corner of the inner room, intending to retrieve the three girls' belongings first. Xia Yuqing, Lu Jia, and Zhang Yao followed close behind. Their wolf fur overcoats glinted with a cold sheen in the dim firelight. Just at that moment, stop! A shrill, almost cracking shout exploded from the crowd. Every head swiveled at once. Su Qingya burst forth from the rear of the throng. Her hair hung disheveled. Bruise marks from a recent slap marred her once refined features. Her eyes burned red, and she looked like a she-wolf cornered with nowhere left to run. Lin Emo, stop right there. Su Qingya dashed to the center of the hall, jabbing a finger straight at Lin Mo's nose. Her chest heaved violently, her voice sharp and grating. What right do you have to lord it over everyone here? Do you think wrapping yourself in a bear skin makes you somebody? Do you think a few pieces of roasted meat give you leave to act however you please? Lin Emo halted. He turned slowly, his gaze settling on Su Qingya, his face entirely devoid of emotion. The icy pressure made several nearby girls flinch and step backward. Su Qingya's scalp prickled under that stare, yet she had already cast all caution aside. She had been rescued by Lin Emo. Xia Yuqing and her two companions lived far better lives than she did. Even Zhao Min and her cronies had knelt begging for shelter. But Su Qingya herself, her all-female group, had crumbled completely. If she could not thrive, no one else would either. Say something. Su Qingya shrieked, advancing another step. Her face twisted with madness. As a man, you rely on supplies and brute force to trample the dignity of us girls. You forced Zhao Min and the others to kneel in public, and you laid hands on women. What kind of man are you? At those words, a flicker of defiance rekindled in the eyes of several girls who had previously looked beaten down. It was true. Lin Emo had gone too far. They were former classmates. They were girls. What gave him the right to treat them like this? Exactly. Hitting women makes you worthless. Li Mingyao appeared out of nowhere, stepping behind Su Qingya to screech in agreement. Emboldened by the support, Su Qingya raised her voice further, speaking with impassioned fervor. Girls, look at Xia Yuqing and her two friends. They are dressed well now, but do not forget, how did they get all this? They submitted to another person to earn those shabby furs. They bowed to another's will. They have shamed all of us women. They are not worthy of calling themselves independent women. They are a disgrace to our sisterhood. Su Qingya grew more and more agitated, spittle flying. We go hungry and shiver from the cold, yet we survive standing tall. We have not compromised our principles. We have integrity. That is true female solidarity. That is a slap. A resounding cut across the face choked off the rest of her sentence mid-speech. Su Qingya spun halfway around from the force of the blow, staggering into a wooden table. One side of her face swelled visibly before everyone's eyes. She clutched her cheek, staring in disbelief at the person who had struck her. Zhang Yao. Zhang Yao stood before her. Her silver, gray wolf fur coat accentuated her tall figure. Her complexion, nourished by warm meat and regular meals, held a rosy hue, and her expression dripped with scorn. Su Qingya, your tongue still reeks. Zhang Yao shook her stinging hand and sneered. Female solidarity? Independence? Where was your solidarity when you stripped off our coats and cast us out with nothing? When you stole our frogs, our fish, and our medicine, driving us toward death? Where was your independence? When wolf packs smashed through the windows, and you shoved classmates out to take the brunt of the attack while you hid inside a closet, where was your so-called dignity? Each word struck like a blade, leaving Su Qingya's face alternating between white and green. Lu Jia stepped forward, her expression icy. Su Qingya, you call us a disgrace? Yet we are the ones who stayed alive. Under your leadership, 3 of our classmates have perished. When Wang Meng died, you pushed her. Have you ever taken responsibility for that? Su Qingya trembled all over. She opened her mouth, yet could not utter a single retort. The surrounding girls exchanged uneasy glances. The anger Su Qingya had stoked swiftly faded away. She shouted about female solidarity and independence, yet look at everything she had done. Xia Yuqing said nothing. She simply stood quietly at Lin Mo's side, watching the former class beauty who had once targeted her at every turn, her gaze holding a trace of pity. That look pierced Su Qingya like a thorn. She shoved Zhang Yao aside and straightened herself once more. Madness twisted her already swollen features. Fine, fine, you 3 wretches, so willing to submit. Su Qingya pointed sharply at Lin Emo, raising her voice to a scream. But Lin Emo, I ask you before all these witnesses, setting aside all facts. Are you completely blameless in this? The moment those words left her mouth, total silence descended over the hall. Dozens of girls gaped, staring at Su Qingya as if she had lost her mind. Setting aside all facts, the slaps, the forced kneeling, the withheld supplies, those were all facts she herself had just brought up. If you cast aside facts entirely, what was there left to argue about? Li Xiao could not hold back a quiet curse under her breath. She's lost her senses. Yang Shuanghua adjusted her glasses, her mouth twitching in utter bewilderment. Even Lu Yunyan, slumped nearby, regarded Su Qingya with a cold, hollow stare. Oblivious to the reactions around her, Su Qingya kept on ranting hysterically. What right do you have to treat us this way? You are a man. You ought to be magnanimous. You ought to tolerate our girlish tempers. So what if we cursed you and drove you away? Are you not ashamed for holding grudges against girls? You possess so many supplies. You could feed every single one of us, yet you refuse to share. You stand by and watch us suffer. You are cold-hearted and ruthless. I will say this straight to your face, Lin Mo. What right do you have to bully us vulnerable women? What right do you have to deny us a chance to live? By the end of her outburst, Su Qingya was streaming with tears and snot, striking a pose almost like that of a martyr. She held herself upright like a cornered rooster, posturing as a defender of women's honor. Behind her, Li Mingyao also shrieked at the top of her lungs. Yes, setting aside all facts, is Lin Mo entirely without fault? He is a man. Why should he refuse to help us? Do you understand gender equality at all? This unreasonable, logic-free moral high, handing left Yang Shuanghua and the others utterly dumbfounded. In a corner of the room, Chun Shi leaned against the wall, watching Su Qingya's impassioned performance, deep disgust rising in her eyes. A realization dawned on her. This woman did not truly care about female solidarity or dignity. From start to finish, Su Qingya cared for no one but herself. The all-female group, her speeches about female dignity and independence, they were nothing more than moral banners she wielded to exploit others who disagreed with her. Now that that veil of pretense had fallen away, she cast off every last shred of decency. Trying to coerce everyone with the slogan of setting aside the facts was shameless rhetorical trickery, utterly revolting. She closed her eyes, unable to bear looking at Su Qingya any longer. Meanwhile, Lin Mo stood there and listened through Su Qingya's entire raving accusation. Then he laughed. It was a low chuckle, yet it seemed to chill the very air inside the hall. Lin Mo slowly lifted his hands and began to clap. Clap, clap, clap. Sharp applause rang through the death-quiet hall. Each beat hammered against Su Qingya's heart. Bravo! What a fine setting aside all facts argument. Lin Mo dropped his hands. The smile on his lips was cold enough to send shivers down spines. Su Qingya, do you truly believe you are in the right? That you are brave? That you speak for all women? Before he could finish speaking, blazing golden light exploded inside his mind. Ding! Detected host subjected to extreme moral coercion, reality, denying rhetoric, and gender-based blame. Hidden quest triggered. Hidden quest, tyrant of the wilderness. Quest description: when reason and logic are cast aside, and facts are twisted at will, reason no longer serves any purpose. Through direct, unvarnished resolve, let those poisoned by warped mindsets experience firsthand the true law of the wild. Quest requirement: publicly shatter Su Qingya's psychological defenses and self-respect. Use decisive force to dismantle her moral manipulation and take away what she holds most dear. Quest reward: survival points plus 500, intermediate combat skill book ×1, special title Tyrant's Aura passive, exerts mental suppression over hostile targets. Quest time limit: 2 hours, failure penalty, none. System suggests the host give full rein and break down Su Qingya's arrogant self-importance. The system notification blared in Lin Mo's thoughts, and icy coldness hardened his gaze to its peak. Lin Mo accepted the quest without hesitation. A cruel smirk tugged at his lips. His dark eyes locked onto the still, ranting Su Qingya, as though observing a dying ant. Finished. Those two light words cut Su Qingya's shouting short. She froze, staggering backward under the crushing pressure bearing down on her. Lin Mo gave her no time to react. He moved. One long stride carried him forward, his dark bare, skin cloak billowing in the dim firelight. Like an advancing mountain, he closed the distance to Su Qingya. You! Su Qingya's pupils constricted. Her scream never fully escaped her throat. Slap! A thunderous blow landed hard across her already bruised cheek, many times more powerful than Zhang Yao's earlier strike. Her feet left the ground. She spun half way through the air before crashing heavily into the muck like a sack of refuse. Blood mixed with two broken teeth sprayed out, glinting in the firelight as they tumbled to the floor. Dead silence reigned. Dozens of girls stared wide-eyed at Su Qingya twitching on the ground, scarcely daring to breathe. Li Mingyao's legs buckled. She collapsed and scrambled backward on all fours. Lin Emo looked down at Su Qingya, one side of her face grotesquely swollen. His voice held no emotion, yet every word cut sharp as a blade. You wanted to set aside all facts? Very well. I shall set facts aside. We shall speak of consequences instead. His voice emanated from ice-cold depths. You said men ought to be forgiving. But I have no desire to be forgiving right now. I am inclined to mete out hard lessons. You boasted you survived standing tall with unyielding integrity. Now we shall see how much of that integrity can endure. He stepped forward. His military boot struck the wooden floor with a heavy thud. Su Qingya convulsed, scrambling to get away like a spooked cat. Lin Emo, you dare. She had only half lifted herself from the ground. Slap. Another blow sent her sprawling again. Half her face went numb. Blood flooded her mouth. Her vision blurred, and her ears rang deafeningly. This blow is for Wang Ming. Lin Mo's tone stayed flat, yet his words weighed like sledgehammers on every heart in the room. When wolves burst through the window, and you pushed her out to face them, why did you not try setting aside facts with the alpha wolf? Su Qingya shook violently. Blood foam was all she could manage to spit out. You slander me. Slander? Lin Emo sneered. He bent down, seized her matted hair, and hauled her roughly upright off the ground. Tell me, was Wang Ming standing in front of you, or behind you? You. She stood in front of you, did she not? His low voice carried chilling certainty. You shoved her forward. You stood closest to that broken window. Afraid the wolf would take you first, you drove Wang Ming straight into the beast's jaws. I did not. Su Qingya shook her head frantically, tears and snot smearing her face. She ran forward of her own will. It has nothing to do with me. You are lying. Is that so? Lin Emo let go. Su Qingya crumpled back onto the floor like mud. After Chun she killed 2 gray wolves, you cowered trembling inside a closet. Why did you not step forward to aid your so-called sisters? You shout endlessly of female solidarity and an all-female group, yet whenever danger arises, you are always the first to hide. Lin Mo's words stabbed deep. Wang Ming died while you hid in a closet. When Zhang Yao was wounded, you shifted blame elsewhere. When Chun Shi nearly burned alive, what did you do? Your brand of female solidarity demands that others die, while you shout empty slogans from safety? Su Qingya gasped for air, unable to form a single counter-argument. The surrounding girls remained quiet. No one spoke up for her. Her former followers either stared at the floor or watched her misfortune with bitter satisfaction. Su Qingya scanned the circle of cold, disdainful faces. Her heart sank into frozen depths. She knew she was finished. Still, resentment burned unquenched. Why did Lin Emo thrive so well? Why did Xia Yuqing and the others wear furs and eat meat? Why must she, Su Qingya, be thrown beaten onto the ground? Lin Emo, hatred and warped resentment welled inside her, and she let out an eerie, rising fit of wild laughter. I understand. I finally understand. You beat me. You humiliate me. You disgrace me in front of everyone. It is all because I looked down on you before, because I led the others in ostracizing you. Mad light glinted in her eyes. You have feelings for me, do you not? You have had a crush on me all along. Because you cannot have me, you lash out to draw my attention, just like little boys yanking the hair of girls they like. You are childish. You are repulsive. Her words were cut short as Lin Emo planted his boot firmly against her chest, forcing the rest of her speech back down her throat. Have the blows addled your wits? He looked down at her contorted face, filled with revulsion. Where do you get the conceit to imagine I would hold any affection for you? Then why strike only me? Crushed for breath beneath his foot, Su Qingya still tilted her head upward defiantly. When you struck Zhang Baiting, it was because she harmed Zhang Yao. When you confronted Zhao Min, it was after she knelt begging you. They all earned it. Only me. You single me out. You crave my submission. You want me to regret. You want me to kneel and beg for your favor. Her voice climbed higher and higher. I swear, Lin Emo, starve me, freeze me, I will never bow to you. Do not dream I will grovel like Xia Yuqing and the rest. Wild laughter bounced off the walls, sending chills through every girl present. Li Xiao huddled closer to Yang Shuanghua, whispering, Has she lost her mind? Yang Shuanghua adjusted her glasses. Not simple madness. Her worldview has grown pathologically twisted. In her mind, the whole world ought to revolve around her. Any mistreatment from Lin Mo must stem from unrequited longing. She will never admit fault. There is no saving someone like this. Lin Mo listened in silence for several seconds, then laughed. It was quiet, yet bone-chilling, and Su Qingya's raving died away instinctively. Su Qingya, you truly astound me. He lifted his boot and stepped back, battered and broken on the ground, barely able to stand. And still you weave these fantasies of spurned affection. Do you think yourself so captivating, so exalted, that every man must yearn for you? You. Su Qingya tried to rise, only to receive a kick to the shoulder that sent her rolling hard against the wall. Boom. She groaned, curling up and shivering in the corner. Lin Mo stood in the center of the great hall, hands clasped behind his back. His bare, skin cloak billowed in the firelight, like a demon risen from hell itself. You say I single you out? You are correct. He spoke as if stating a plain fact. I do single you out. Because you are foolish. You are cruel, utterly self-absorbed, yet you perpetually cast yourself as the victim. What exactly do you think you are? That light comment pierced straight into her heart. Su Qingya trembled violently in the corner. Her crazed grin vanished completely. Anger, humiliation, fear, and bitter hatred warped her features. Rest assured, however, Lin Mo's tone shifted, taking on an amused edge. I have not come here to kill you. Killing you would be far too merciful. I intend to wear you down bit by bit. I will watch your carefully constructed sense of self crumble until you sink to the lowest of low status. As he spoke, Lin Mo raised his right hand. An object materialized out of thin air in his palm. It was a rusted iron chain. Clang. The chain clanged heavily onto the wooden floor. The hall shuddered. Dozens of pairs of eyes locked onto that chain, their hearts squeezed tight in cold dread. It was a chain meant to restrain a person. Could it be? Was Lin Mo going to fasten it around Su Qingya's neck? Su Qingya stared at the metal links. Every hair on her body stood on end. Cold dread shot up her spine. What? What are you going to do? Her voice shook uncontrollably. She pressed her back against the cold wall, nowhere left to retreat. Lin Mo gave no answer. He slowly lifted his gaze, sweeping across every terrified face in the room, before his eyes settled once more on her. Su Qingya, you love to speak so loudly of dignity, integrity, and the glory of your all-female sisterhood. His voice was soft, yet compelled absolute silence. Let us play a game. A game where that very dignity and that collective pride you preach will be the price for your chance to stay alive. He paused, his smile growing colder still. The game will last 2 hours. Whether you seize your chance depends entirely on your own choices. As Lin Mo finished speaking, the wooden hall sank into a silence as profound as a graveyard. 30 odd girls stared at the rusted chain lying on the floor, their hearts constricted with icy dread. They barely dared draw breath. Huddled in the corner, Su Qingya stared fixedly at the chain. Her pupils shrank to pinpricks. Every hair stood erect on her skin. Lin Mo, you would not dare, she screamed, her tone shaking despite herself. If you fasten that thing around my neck, my father will make you pay. The Su Group's team of lawyers slap. Before she could finish, Lin Mo struck her again. Her head slammed against the wall, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. Still prattling about the Su Group? Lin Mo crouched down, grabbed her matted hair, and forced her swollen, bloodied face close to his own. Su Qingya, have you yet to understand where you are? This is the wilderness, not your father's corporate boardroom. He stood back up. His gaze traveled across the crowd, sending shivers through everyone. But before the game begins, Lin Mo flipped his right wrist. A milky, white porcelain vial appeared in his hand. He pulled out the stopper, and a cool medicinal fragrance drifted out to fill the entire hall. High grade golden wound ointment. Remaining 65%, he glanced at the system panel, a cruel smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Su Qingya, pretty as your face is, the game we're about to play won't be any fun if your features are all swollen and ruined. Before the words faded, Lin Mo crouched down, gripped Su Qingya's jaw, and poured pale, gold medicinal powder straight onto her purple, swollen cheek. What are you doing? Su Qingya struggled in terror, but Lin Mo's tripled, strength grip was like iron pincers, holding her completely immobile. The instant the golden powder touched her skin, wisps of golden light seeped beneath the surface. The bruising and swelling on Su Qingya's face faded away before everyone's eyes. Her split lip and torn skin knitted back together, forming a thin, dark, red scab. Even old injuries inflicted earlier by Chun Shi and Zhang Biding healed over. In less than 10 seconds, Her features were restored to nearly the full beauty of the campus belle she had once been. A murmur of shock rippled through the onlookers. This medicine is unbelievable. That's just like Chen-Shi's arm earlier, scabbing over in seconds. Why waste such precious medicine on Su Qingya, right? She just insulted Lin Mo, and he's patching her up. Li Xiao leaned against the wall, watching the scene unfold, disbelief flickering across her face. Yang Shuanghua adjusted her glasses, her eyes glinting with complicated insight. This is not mercy. It is for the sake of the game. What do you mean? Think about it. If Su Qingya's face were puffed up and hideous, her breakdown and humiliation would lose their sharp visual impact. Yang Shuanghua kept her voice low. But with her good-looking face intact, while she endures public degradation, that stark contrast is exactly what Lin Mo wants. Li Xiao drew in a sharp breath. True enough. To crush a person's dignity, you do not trample them when they are already disfigured. You strip away their pride while they still retain their outward gloss. This man, Lin Mo, was utterly ruthless. Su Qingya touched her smooth, restored cheek, stunned for several seconds. The pain was gone. The swelling was gone. She could feel residual medicinal power still mending faint old scars beneath her skin. She lifted her gaze toward the tall man draped in a black bear fur cloak standing over her. His dark eyes looked down on her, holding no tenderness or pity, only the cold, amused appraisal of someone observing prey. But Su Qingya's thoughts spiraled wildly down her own delusional path. He healed my face. He struck me moments ago, yet used such rare medicine to fix my injuries. Wasn't this exactly the obsessive trope from melodramas? Lin Mo must secretly be in love with her. Lin Mo, Su Qingya tilted her head upward, a disturbing, unhinged smile spreading across her newly restored features. Admit it, you're in love with me. Silence crashed over the hall. Dozens of girls stared at her as if watching a lunatic. Had she lost her mind? He had just struck her, then treated her wounds, and she read that as romantic affection. You never hit anyone but me. You never heal anyone else's face, only mine. Su Qingya scrambled unsteadily to her feet, her eyes burning with maniacal fervor. You're using this harsh, twisted way to make me yield, to make me regret. You refuse to say it out loud, but deep down you are head over heels for me. Back when you were class life representative, you always slipped me an extra book during distribution, wiped down my desk during cleaning duty. I should have seen those signs long ago. Stop pretending, Lin Mo. She spread her arms and stepped back, striking a posture of magnanimous forgiveness. I'll admit, I looked down on you before. So what if you have special powers? So what if you can fight? Deep down you still long for my attention. But since you are so fixated on me, I will grant you one chance. Drive Xia Yunqing and the other two away, kneel and kowtow to apologize to me, and put me in charge. Then I might choose to overlook all your violent acts and let you stay within our all-female group. When she finished speaking, the hall grew so quiet one could hear a pin drop. Xia Yuqing, Lu Jia and Zhang Yao exchanged glances, their expressions utterly baffled. Has she really lost her senses? Zhang Yao whispered in disbelief. How can she think like this? Not simple madness. Complete psychological breakdown. Lu Jia watched Su Qingya coldly. She interprets every hostile act against her as unrequited affection. That is her warped defense mechanism, the only way her fragile self-esteem does not collapse entirely. Xia Yuqing said nothing. She merely regarded Su Qingya's contorted face with quiet pity. This woman had once been the proudest girl in their class, the one who scorned Lin Mo above all others. Now she could only cling to the fantasy of his secret infatuation to preserve what little self-respect remained. It was profoundly tragic. Lin Mo stood still, hearing every word of Su Qingya's impassioned rant. Then he laughed. His laugh was quiet, yet it sent chills through every girl present. Su Qingya. He spoke her name in a dangerously calm tone. Do you truly believe I treated your wounds out of sympathy for you? Is it not obvious? Su Qingya tilted her chin upward stubbornly, confidence shining in her eyes. You cannot bear to see my beautiful face ruined. Your looks are certainly striking, but you are wrong. I did not tend to you out of care. I wanted your features unmarred, so everyone could plainly witness your humiliation and abject disgrace. Before Su Qingya could reply, Lin Mo waved a hand, and a huge roasted lamb chop materialized out of thin air. It was nearly as thick as an adult's torso, golden, brown, and crisp. Glistening fat glowed amber in the firelight, and waves of rich hot meat aroma exploded through the hall. Hunger, crushing, primal hunger washed over every girl in the room. Several girls who had been slumped on the ground scrambled upward, eyes locked rigidly onto the sizzling roast, saliva dripping uncontrollably from their mouths. Meat, roasted meat. It smells so good, I'm starving to death. The sound of repeated swallowing echoed loudly through the silent hall. Even Su Qingyao froze, staring fixedly at the lamb chop. Gnawing hunger twisted her insides, threatening to overwhelm her sanity. When had she last eaten proper meat? Only undercooked wolf meat. A small portion of pork she had received after enduring dozens of slaps. After that, only tree roots, bitter weeds, and foul, tasting distilled water. Her stomach cramped violently, and saliva flooded her mouth. Hungry? This is merely an appetizer. Lin Emo smiled faintly. He waved his hand again, revealing a full sack of pure white salt, a lighter, and an entire crate of feminine hygiene supplies. Packaged sanitary pads and tampons appeared before them. Several girls, shifting uncomfortably, stained with dried menstrual blood, their bodies racked by monthly discomfort, stared with burning desperation. They had been forced to make do with rags, dry grass, and even bark. Some had developed painful infections from poor makeshift materials, suffering sleepless nights from lower abdominal agony. These are not food, yet they are far more precious than food. Lin Emo laid the supplies out in plain sight, his voice steady yet heavy. You privileged young ladies understand better than anyone what these mean out in the wilderness. He scanned the crowd, observing faces contorted by starvation and physical distress. His cruel smile deepened. So as I said, we will play a game. Complete it, and you stand a chance to claim these supplies. The rules are simple. He pointed towards Su Qingyao, who had shrunk back against the wall. I want you to use that chain and make this woman taste the bitter humiliation she once inflicted on others. In the end, she will tremble with remorse and kneel before me. Lin Emo paused, enunciating each word sharply. And admit that your all-female group is nothing but a worthless, rotten mess. The air in the hall solidified the moment he finished. The roasted lamb chop still steamed in Lin Mo's grasp. Fat dripped drop by drop onto the floor, each impact clearly audible. Dozens of eyes locked onto Su Qingyao. Fear and deference were gone. Only ravenous, naked greed remained. Terror prickled across Su Qingyao's scalp. She pressed her back hard against the cold wooden wall, nowhere left to retreat. She could feel the girls who had once fawned over her, calling her Sister Qingyao, now regarding her like starved wolves circling prey. What are you all planning to do? Her voice cracked and turned shrill. She jumped to her feet, trying to reclaim her old imposing aura. Lin Emo is manipulating us. He wants to watch us tear each other apart. You are all being fooled. No one answered. That suffocating silence terrified her more than insults ever could. Wild desperation surged within Su Qingyao. She tossed her disheveled hair back and screamed at the top of her lungs. I am Su Qingyao, only daughter of the CEO of Su Group. I grew up in luxury, chauffeured everywhere, staying in 5-star hotels. I will never bow to a man like Lin Emo. Not ever. Even if I starve here, I will not submit. This is our principle. This is the dignity of our all-female group. She spread her arms, trying to rally her crumbling faction, sweeping her gaze across every person in the room. Sisters, wake up. We are independent women. We must not trade our self-respect to please men. We have survived 7 days already. Hold on for 23 more days. We will awaken superhuman abilities, and then we will crush Lin Emo beneath our feet. I will be the first to avenge you. With the Su family's power, I will make him suffer endlessly. She finished her impassioned speech, chest heaving, waiting for the cheers she expected, waiting for her former followers to rally around her and lift her up once more. Only silence answered her. The girls glanced nervously at one another. Not a single person moved. They could barely survive 7 days on end. How were they supposed to endure another 23 waiting for powers that might never come? Next to their gnawing, empty stomachs, those lofty ideals meant nothing at all. Right within reach sat sizzling roasted lamb, fine salt, and supplies that could ease their physical suffering. Lin Emo toyed with the lamb chop in his hands and spoke slowly. Finished. An amused smirk played on his lips. He glanced upward at an invisible timer floating in the air. A reminder. Time for this game is ticking. 2 hours. Once this chance passes, it will be gone forever. Then I take the meat back. You can go back eating tree roots, waiting for your powers. His words pierced the tense atmosphere like a needle popping a balloon. Someone in the crowd moved. Zhao Min. She staggered to her feet and advanced step by step towards Su Qingyao. Her complexion was deathly pale, lips cracked and peeling. Yet her sunken eyes burned with desperate resolve. Sister Qingyao. Her voice came out hoarse and ragged. Su Qingya clutched at this glimmer of hope, eyes lighting up. Zhao Min. Yes. You tell them. We cannot let Lin Mo divide us. Justice. Zhao Min let out a bitter laugh, more sorrowful than weeping. She raised her voice sharply and pointed straight at Su Qingya. Su Qingya, even now you go on about dignity and independence. Have you ever thought about the rest of us? Her outburst froze Su Qingya completely. Ever since we arrived in this hellish place, you stole our fish, hoarded all the best meat for yourself. When wolf packs broke in, you hid inside a closet and pushed Wang Ming outside to be devoured. Zhao Min's tears streamed down her face. We are all on the brink of starvation. Your suffering can buy us roast lamb, salt, life, saving supplies. Why should we all suffer for your sake? You are selfish. You have only ever cared about yourself, never any of us. She stood on moral high ground, every accusation cutting deep. Su Qingya turned pale, then flushed with rage, trembling all over. Zhao Min, you ungrateful wretch. Who pulled you from the outcasts? Who shared rations with you? And now you turn on me. Have you no conscience at all? Conscience? Zhao Min laughed bitterly. You devoured what conscience I had. The scraps you gave me were fish bones and tiny shreds of meat. You feasted while we risked our lives on watch duty. Now it is your turn to make a sacrifice, and you refuse. Former close allies turned bitter enemies in an instant. Su Qingya shook with fury, shouting back. Fine. You have backbone. Then why do you not sacrifice yourself for meat? You are so brave, go on. Why must I alone bear this shame? Why you? Another voice cut in. Li Mingyao had crept forward. Once Su Qingya's most loyal follower, she now hung back, eyes glinting with calculation. She licked her parched lips, staring toward the meat. Her voice shook, yet held sharp determination. Sister Qingya, I have to say, our group has supported you for so long, giving you priority over everything. Now it is time for you to give something back. You always preached collective responsibility and group honor. This is exactly when the group needs you. Li Mingyao's words struck Su Qingya like a blow to the chest. Li Mingyao. She stared in utter disbelief. Even you betray me. Have I not treated you well? Treated me well? Li Mingyao's features twisted. You made me fetch your water, tend to your comfort late at night. Where was your kindness then? I followed you only to stay alive. Now survival is within reach through you. Why will you not step up? We have looked after you all this time. What is wrong with you making one sacrifice? All pretense of sisterhood shattered amid hunger-fueled fury. Zhao Min denounced Su Qingya's selfishness. Su Qingya screamed that Zhao Min was ungrateful. Li Mingyao fanned the flames. Insults flew back and forth across the hall. Other onlooking girls were swept up in the frenzy and joined the chorus of condemnation. Exactly. You have been selfish this whole time. Do not drag the rest of us down with you. Make this sacrifice for the group. The hall descended into total chaos. The girls who once chanted slogans of sisterly unity tore away every last shred of decency for a chance at food. In a corner, Chun-Shi leaned against a pile of dry hay. Her newly healed left arm rested across her knees. She watched the uproar with a blank expression, her fingers tightening subtly. She had seen wolves smash through windows and witnessed snow leopards kill with brutal ferocity. Yet this scene sent colder shivers down her spine. Beasts kill to eat, it is pure instinct. But human beings, desperate to survive, would push former companions into ruin and justify it as duty to the collective. That darkness within human nature terrified her more than any wild beast of the wilderness. Shuanghua. Nearby, Li Xiao clutched young Shuanghua's sleeve, trembling. How could they turn on each other like this? Only days ago they were close friends. Yang Shuanghua remained quiet. Her hand gripping her glasses shook faintly. Behind the lenses lay cold, complicated understanding. After a long moment she spoke very softly. They have not changed. This side of them was always there. It simply never showed while food was plentiful. Her gaze drifted to Lin Mo, standing calm in the center of the room, observing everything. Lin Mo had done nothing directly. He had merely laid out bait and stepped back. Everything unfolding was of these girls' own doing. Yang Shuanghua shuddered. This man's methods were far more horrifying than drawing a blade. He did not need to personally destroy anyone's dignity. He only needed to lay out desperation and temptation, then watch quietly as they stripped one another's pride to pieces. This is only the beginning. Yang Shuanghua whispered, a tremor in her low voice. In the middle of the hall, Su Qingya was surrounded by shouting accusers. Her face flushed, then blanched, then darkened with rage. Her newly healed, pretty features contorted horribly. For the first time she knew genuine terror. Not fear of Lin Mo, but fear of the women who had once looked up to her as their leader. In every pair of eyes surrounding her, she saw the same cold calculation she had seen in Lin Mo's gaze. They saw her as prey, as a bargaining chip. The shouting swelled louder in the great hall, like a pot of oil about to come to a rolling boil. At this tense standoff, a cool female voice suddenly rang out from the edge of the crowd. I agree. Everyone froze and turned toward the sound. It was Lu Yunyan who had spoken. This former team teacher, once poised and elegant, who had always spoken of the collective and morality. She leaned against a weathered wooden pillar and slowly rose to her feet. Her clothes were crumpled, her hair fell disheveled over her shoulders, and traces of humiliation and fresh tears from her earlier ordeal still marked her face. Yet her eyes held the cold stillness of stagnant water. Ms. Lu? Zhao Min stared in shock. Lu Yunyan pulled her mouth into a bitter, self-mocking smile. I told you, I am no longer your teacher. She walked step by step toward the center of the hall. Her gaze settled on Su Qingya, holding none of a teacher's compassion, only venom colder than shards of ice. Su Qingya, do you know? Lu Yunyan spoke softly, yet every word cut deep. Not long ago, they forced me over to Lin Mo's camp to barter for supplies. They said I was nearly 30 with no partner, a woman unwanted by anyone. They wanted me to trade my dignity so you could get medicine and salt. A bitter laugh escaped her. Who started all of this? Who first turned the saying, you must sacrifice for the collective into a knife and pressed it into their hands? It was you, Su Qingya. You used those words to force Xia Yuqing and the others to do brutal, backbreaking work. You forced Zhang Yao to hand over life-saving medicine. You drove Chun Shi out hunting while she was wounded. And now, Lu Yunyan enunciated each word deliberately. It is your turn to taste what it feels like to be treated as a sacrifice by your own people. Her words were the final straw for Su Qingya. Lu Yunyan, you wretched woman. Su Qingya shrieked madly. You kick me when I am already down. How dare a former teacher turn against her own students? Turn against you? Lu Yunyan shook her head, her eyes empty and indifferent. I merely want to survive. In that, I am no different from them, or from you. Only that you harmed everyone first. With that, she stepped aside and would not look at Su Qingya again. Su Qingya turned ice-cold all over. The girls who had once obeyed her every word now regarded her with transformed expressions. No one cared about female empowerment or women's dignity anymore. In their eyes, lit red by hunger, burned nothing but raw desperation. Panicked, Su Qingya spun toward Xia Yuqing, Lu Jia, and Zhang Yao, who stood beside Lin Mo. These three girls, whom she had once humiliated and trampled underfoot, now wore soft, warm silver-gray wolf fur coats. Their complexions looked healthy and ruddy as they stood in the glow of the fire, looking down on her. Xia Yuqing, say something. Su Qingya clung to this last thread of hope, wailing shrilly. Look at what Lin Mo is doing. This is bullying. He is publicly humiliating every single one of us. If he can treat me like this today, he will treat you the exact same way tomorrow. Do not be fooled by him. We were classmates back at school. How can you stand by and watch him degrade us? She tried to erode the three girls' loyalty to Lin Mo, to stoke their fear of him. But Xia Yuqing only watched her quietly. There was neither rage nor pity in her eyes, only profound scorn. Classmates. Degradation. Xia Yuqing adjusted the warm fur collar of her coat, her tone clear and level. When you stripped off our outer clothes and drove us out into the freezing snow, did you remember we were classmates? When you feasted on fish inside the ramshackle cabin and sent Zhang Yao out to risk her life with a bleeding leg, where was your respect for other women? Lu Jia cut in with a cold sneer. Su Qingya, drop your hollow excuses. Lin Mo has given us hot soup, roasted meat, a safe bunker, and basic human decency. You only ever wanted us dead. Zhang Yao folded her arms and spat in contempt. You committed every evil deed yourself. Now that misfortune has fallen on you, you want to drag everyone else down? What you are going through is entirely your own fault. You deserve it. Their cold, unwavering loyalty shattered the last of Su Qingya's attempts to turn them against him. In the shadows some distance away, Chun Shi leaned against the wooden wall with her arms crossed, watching the scene unfold in silence. Her intact right hand gripped a wooden spear, and she did not utter a single word. Li Xiao and Yang Shuanghua stood beside Chun Shi, their faces conflicted, fingers unconsciously twisting the hems of their clothing. They took no part in the quarrel and had no intention of helping Su Qingya. Silence settled over the hall. The rich aroma of golden, glistening roasted lamb cutlet lingered where Lin Mo held it. Grease stopped dripping, a silent signal that his patience was wearing thin. Zhao Min jerked her head up. The last shred of human reason inside her was swallowed completely by hunger. For meat. Damn it. She roared and lunged forward. Thud. She crashed into Su Qingya, and pinned her hard against the cold, mud-covered floor. What are you doing? Let go of me, Zhao Min. Su Qingya struggled furiously. In the next instant, Wang Feng, Li Mingyao, and 4 or 5 other girls surged forward like a fuse had been lit. They unleashed all the resentment, hunger, and terror they had endured these past days upon the once lofty school beauty. Beat her badly. This is all your fault. You made us starve for days. Fists, open palms, and raking fingernails rained down on Su Qingya. Some grabbed her hair and slammed her head against the ground. Others kicked and stamped on her back. Wild-eyed, several tore at the tattered blanket and outer garments she had seized for herself. You loved being beautiful, didn't you? You cared so much about your pride. Li Mingyao cackled sharply as she ripped Su Qingya's coat off, leaving her in thin, filthy underlayers. Now you get to know what it is to be cast out with nothing. Ah! Su Qingya let out a blood-curdling scream. She tried desperately to shield herself, but she was hopelessly outnumbered. The ferocity unleashed by girls who had once bowed and scraped to her was overwhelming. Within mere minutes, the once arrogant school beauty lay curled on the muddy ground, bruised, battered, and disheveled. The delicate features Lin Mo had healed with powerful medicine were now marked with fresh cuts and dark bruises. Stop, please stop. Su Qingya broke down into hysterical sobs, tears and snot streaking her face, every trace of her former pride and dignity gone. I was wrong. Please stop hurting me. No one heeded her pleas. Gasping for breath, Zhao Min snatched up a rusted chain from the ground and fixed Su Qingya with a ferocious stare. Su Qingya, you enjoyed bullying others, didn't you? Now, you get to experience what being bullied feels like. Su Qingya knelt trembling at Lin Mo's feet, her face a hideous mess of tears and mucus. Dozens of pairs of eyes in the hall locked onto her, then shifted as one to the roasted lamb cutlet in Lin Mo's hand. It was over. The game was finished. Soon they would get their meat. More than a few girls swallowed hard, waiting eagerly for Lin Mo to toss the food out. Yet Lin Mo did not move. He glanced down at the shaking Su Qingya, then checked the silent system panel in his mind. No notification chime. No golden light signaling a completed quest. The progress bar for the quest Wild Tyrant remained frozen where it had been. A cold smile tugged at the corner of Lin Mo's mouth. He understood. The woman had submitted physically, but deep in her soul her stubborn pride, her conviction that Su Qingya was inherently superior and would never bow to a man, remained embedded like a thorn. The game was far from over, and it was about to escalate. Holding the roasted lamb cutlet under every gaze in the room, Lin Mo walked over to Xia Yuqing and held out the heavy piece of meat toward her. Yuqing, bring me the knife. Understood. Though confused, Xia Yuqing drew the sharp steel dagger Lin Mo had given them for self-defense from her waist. The 3 of you, cut this meat and distribute it to everyone present, Lin Mo said in a calm, yet unmistakable voice. 1 piece per person. Fair shares. No one gets extra, no one gets less. As soon as the words left his mouth, the atmosphere in the hall ignited. Meat. We are really getting meat. Long live Lin Mo. Long live our leader. At last we get to eat. The girls erupted into wild cheers. Several girls, weak with hunger, cried from overwhelming relief. They swarmed towards Xia Yuqing and her 2 companions like starved wolves closing in on feed. Zhao Min released the chain and scrambled forward on hands and knees. Give me a piece. I was first. Li Mingyao pushed through the crowd. Me too. I helped hold Su Qingya down. I deserve more. Chaos erupted instantly. Ignoring their shouting, Xia Yuqing worked with Lu Jia and Zhang Yao. They sliced the lamb expertly into dozens of portions with the dagger and handed 1 piece to each person in turn. Each serving was small, yet to these starving girls it was priceless salvation. They grabbed the roasted meat, heedless of the heat, and stuffed it into their mouths. Grease ran down their chins, and the hall filled with the sounds of ravenous chewing and quiet moans of satisfaction. Some finished their portion and licked every trace of grease from their fingers, eyes fixed greedily on the few remaining pieces in Xia Yuqing's hands. Large as the lamb cutlet had been, divided among 30-odd people, each person received barely enough to take the sharp edge off their hunger. Their empty bellies, barely filled, only craved more. Among those present, Chen Shi, Li Xiao, and Yang Shuanghua stood apart and received no meat. 1 other person also waited in vain for her share, Su Qingya. Xia Yuqing handed out the very last piece, clapped her hands together, and stepped back to Lin Mo's side. Su Qingya's eyes followed the empty platter, her pupils contracting sharply. Where's my meat? She lifted her head abruptly, staring at Lin Mo with a hoarse, shrill voice. Lin Mo, You promised we would get food if we played along. You are breaking your word. Lin Mo looked down at her without the faintest trace of pity, the amusement of a tyrant watching an ant in his gaze. What I said was, if you complete the game, you get food. He stressed the word, you deliberately, his smile chilling. When I said you, I meant them. That does not include you. As for you, he paused and spoke each word slowly. You are nothing more than a prop in this game. Props do not get to eat. Su Qingya's face drained of all color. Some of the girls paused mid-chew. A few stared guiltily at the floor. Others wore blank expressions as if they had not heard. They had used Su Qingya's humiliation to earn this meat. Now that food was in their bellies, none would speak up for her. Su Qingya trembled all over. Crippling hunger twisted her insides, nearly robbing her of reason. She scrambled forward 2 paces and reached for the dagger and the platter, trying to scrape up every last crumb of meat residue. Give it to me. Just a little. I am starving to death. Xia Yuqing stepped backward, frowning. She did not lash out, yet she would not hand over food. Lu Jia moved forward to block her path, her tone icy. Su Qingya, your compliance was hollow. Hatred burned in your eyes even as you submitted. Do you think we could not see it? Zhang Yao added sharply, exactly. Every gesture you made was full of hidden resentment. Su Qingya had no retort. She collapsed on all fours, gasping heavily, hot tears splattering onto the dirt floor. Lin Mo stood over her, watching her abject state. Do you think wearing a chain and performing acts of submission counts as surrender? Do you take me for a fool? He crouched down, seized her chin in his hand, and forced her to look upward. You threatened me. You swore you would get revenge once you awakened your special power. Did you believe I paid that no mind? Su Qingya's eyes widened. She bit down hard on her lip. His fingers clamped around her jaw like unyielding iron, rough and cold against her skin. You still harbor those thoughts, do you not? You still wait for the day your power awakens so you can trample me and avenge yourself. Lin Mo's voice dropped, growing icier. Your pride has not been broken. Therefore, he let go and stood straight. He reached out toward empty air. A faint light flickered, and a set of fine black garments materialized before everyone's eyes. The hall fell dead silent. Girls with half-chewed food in their mouths stared in stunned shock at the outfit. A shudder ran through many of them. Su Qingya stared at the clothes as though struck by lightning. Every drop of blood in her veins seemed to turn to ice. What are you planning to do? Her voice shook uncontrollably. She shrank backward until her back slammed against the wooden wall. There was nowhere left to run. Lin Mo picked up the black garments and tossed them onto the muddy ground before Su Qingya. The thin dark fabric lay mired in filth. What we have done so far was only a warm-up, Lin Mo said, his voice heavy, hammering at every heart in the room. Now we move on to round 2. At those words, Su Qingya shook violently. Her teeth chattered. Unprecedented terror washed over her like ice-cold water from head to toe. You devil, you cannot mean, correct. You understand. Lin Mo looked down at her, as one might observe a lamb led to slaughter. Put these on. Clean yourself. Kneel before me and kowtow to offer your sincere apology. Beg for my mercy. If you refuse, his tone turned frigid, all food and water supplies stop immediately. Not just for you, for every single person in this hall. Pandemonium erupted. Lin Mo, have you lost your mind? Why must we suffer shortages for what Su Qingya refuses to do? We already ate the meat. This is not our fault. Girls who had been savoring their meal grew distraught. Some licked their parched lips in panic. They knew all too well what cutting off the water supply meant. Already surviving on scarce distilled and unclean water, their bodies hovered on the brink of dehydration. Without water, many would not last a full day. Lu Yunyan leaned against the wall in the corner, pale and trembling. She was nearly 30 years old and had seen darkness in the world, yet she had never witnessed such ruthless tactics designed to strip every last shred of self-respect from a person. She sat on a pile of dry grass, her knees drawn tight to her chest. She stared at the black garments, her mind roiling with conflicting emotions. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. Lin Mo had saved her life. She loathed the harm Su Qingya had inflicted on others, and Su Qingya had largely brought this upon herself. Li Xiao covered her mouth, looking at Lin Mo with undisguised fear in her eyes. Yang Xuanghua adjusted her glasses, her fingertips ice-cold. He is breaking her completely, Li Xiao whispered barely loud enough to hear. No, Yang Xuanghua drew a shaky breath. He is not only punishing Su Qingya, he is setting an example for every single one of us here. He wants everyone to witness what becomes of those who oppose or fail to truly submit to him. He truly is a tyrant. Li Xiao shuddered and said no more. Xia Yuqing, Lu Jia and Zhang Yao were the most appalled of all. Still holding the cutting dagger and platter, they glanced between the clothes on the ground and the terrified Su Qingya, their expressions deeply conflicted. Xia Yuqing bit her lower lip and stayed silent. She had known Lin Mo could be harsh, yet she had not expected such merciless pressure meant to crush a person's self-respect entirely. Memories flooded her. How Su Qingya had stripped them, stolen their fish and medicine, withheld food, and sent them to face certain death. Su Qingya's own cruelties had been no less severe. Xia Yuqing's gaze hardened. She stepped closer to Lin Mo and held her tongue. Lu Jia and Zhang Yao exchanged a look and likewise chose silence. Lin Mo took in every reaction in the room before his gaze settled back on Su Qingya. Well, what is your decision? Su Qingya huddled on the ground like a cornered beast with nowhere left to flee. Her eyes fell on the set of black garments. She would never have even glanced at clothing like this in her old life. Su Qingya had been born privileged. Suitors had lined up to shower her with luxury gifts, all of which she had scorned. In her mind, only women of low standing would wear such garments to plead for another's favor. How could she put these on? How could she beg mercy from a man she had once thought beneath her notice? Her fists clenched so hard her fingernails pierced her palms, drawing fresh blood. Lin Mo, you will never get what you want. Su Qingya lifted her head sharply. Mud streaked her face, yet desperate defiance burned in her eyes. I am Su Qingya. For 21 years, I have never begged any man for anything. Do you think I will debase myself the way Xia Yuqing and the others have? Never. I swear. I will die of thirst. I will starve to death before I let you humiliate me. Her shrill voice echoed through the silent hall like a jagged, broken blade. Lin Mo listened without the slightest change of expression. He glanced down at the garments on the ground, then swept his gaze across the room to the girls who had just eaten meat, their eyes burning with anxious urgency. You all heard what she said. Lin Mo spoke calmly, yet every word carried weight. Therefore, all food distributions cease. Access to supplies is revoked for everyone. She will not receive water or sustenance until she understands what is expected of her. Only then will rations resume. Having said that, he turned around, pulled over a rickety chair, and sat down in the middle of the hall. Folding his arms across his chest, he watched the group of girls as if observing a show. A suffocating silence descended over the hall. The girls who had just rejoiced over getting some barbecued meat slowly drained of all color in their faces. Some began licking their lips, their throats parched. For people who had gone without food for days, that small amount of meat was nowhere near enough to fill their stomachs. Instead, it stoked their already ravenous hunger. It left them hungrier, thirstier, craving more. Zhao Min was the first to snap out of it. She spun around and stared fixedly at Su Qingya lying on the floor. The look in her eyes shifted from anxiety to rage, then to vicious fury. Su Qingya, haven't you done us enough harm? Wang Feng also stood up, her fists clenched, her voice trembling. Go die on your own. Why drag all of us down with you? Put it on. Put it on right now. If you won't do it, we'll make you. Several girls, driven half-mad by hunger and thirst, advanced step by step towards Su Qingya. Zhao Min grabbed Su Qingya by the hair and dragged her bodily toward the lace outfit. Wang Feng and Li Mingyao pinned her thrashing arms down on either side, their fingernails digging deep into her flesh. Let go of me. You maniacs. Let me go. Su Qingya's screams echoed through the hall as she kicked wildly, knocking over a rickety wooden table nearby. Empty bowls clattered and shattered across the floor, sending shards flying everywhere. Yet no one stopped. The girls who had just tasted a little grilled meat had their taste buds awakened. Their stomachs rumbled loudly, screaming at their brains to seek more food, to fill their emaciated bodies. An indescribable hunger was like an abyss, devouring their reason. They stared fixedly at Su Qingya. Not a trace of the former deference remained in their eyes, only the frenzy of raw survival instinct. Su Qingya, how much longer are you going to ruin us? Zhao Min slapped her hard across the face, her voice shrill and piercing. You refuse to put it on? Fine, we'll strip you ourselves. With that, she reached for the tattered outer coat Su Qingya was wearing. Rip! The sound of tearing fabric cut sharply through the still hall. Su Qingya's screams faded into whimpers, then into desperate pleas. But none of the girls surrounding her showed the slightest mercy. Their faces were cold and wrought with anxiety, like jackals closing in on prey, waiting for their quarry's last breath. In the corner, Chun-Shi leaned against a wooden wall, her good right hand gripping a wooden spear so tightly her knuckles turned white. She watched Su Qingya being pinned to the ground by the others, watched the once arrogant girl reduced to a tear-streaked mess. Complex emotions swirled deep in her eyes. She despised Su Qingya. This woman was selfish, hypocritical, and cruel, and had pushed countless people toward ruin. Yet seeing her former follower strip away every last shred of her dignity, Chun-Shi felt no sense of satisfaction, only bone-chilling cold, because this scene of violence brought back painful, haunting memories from her troubled childhood at home. Enough! Chun-Shi pushed herself upright with her spear. Her voice was hoarse, yet carried undeniable force. Have you all truly turned into beasts ruled solely by your cravings? Zhao Min's hands froze. She spun round and glared at Chun-Shi, full of scorn. What high and mighty act are you putting on, Chun-Shi? Don't forget who spared your life. Exactly, Li Mingyao chimed in shrilly. Your injured arm was healed by Lin Mo. What right do you have to lecture us? Chun-Shi's chest tightened. She opened her mouth, but could not find a single word to retort. It was true. She had not eaten the meat, yet she had used Lin Mo's medicine. What right did she have to step forward and stop this cruelty? Yang Shuanghua tugged gently at Chun-Shi's sleeve and shook her head barely perceptibly, her voice lowered to a whisper. Shi Jia, leave it. You cannot change this. Chun-Shi ground her teeth. Eventually she closed her eyes, leaned back against the wall, and fell silent. Lin Mo, meanwhile, remained seated in the broken chair, arms folded, watching everything unfold with cold detachment. He did not urge anyone on, fly into a rage, or speak another word. He simply sat there, like a silent tyrant, waiting for his prey to walk willingly into the abyss. Minutes ticked by. Someone licked their dry lips, and the sound of swallowing echoed in the hall. The noise spread, one person after another. The girls licked their lips and swallowed hard, letting out anxious whimpers. Their stomachs cramped repeatedly. Hunger was crueler than any wild beast. The small piece of grilled meat they had eaten had long been digested, only stoking their ravenous hunger. The foul-tasting distilled water they drank did nothing to fill the emptiness gnawing inside them. Cold washed over their bodies. Their vision blurred, and it felt as though sharp blades were scraping the lining of their stomachs. I'm so hungry, I need food. A frail girl sank to the floor. Her lips were cracked and peeling, her voice barely audible. Just one more bite, only one bite. Another girl clutched her throat, eyes red, shaking uncontrollably. Like an addict in withdrawal, her gaze hung greedily on the piece of grilled meat in Lin Mo's hand. Zhao Min's lips were pale and parched. She whirled back towards Su Qingya, bloodshot eyes blazing. Su Qingya, why are you even still alive? Do you want us all to starve to death? Put it on. Wang Feng roared, snatching the lace outfit from the ground and slamming it straight into Su Qingya's face. Thin black net fabric draped over Su Qingya's mud-stained features. She lay on the floor, her whole body shaking violently, holding back muffled sobs. 40 minutes had passed. 40 minutes since Lin Mo had first brought out the outfit. She had resisted, argued, clung stubbornly to her last vestiges of pride against the pressure from everyone around her. But now, her stomach seized in painful spasms. Her lips split open and bled. Her throat burned as though scraped raw with sandpaper. Worse still, she could feel the stairs closing in around her, growing colder by the second. No one was coming to save her. Lu Yunyan would not. Chun-Shi would not. The girls who had once fawned over her now saw her only as a bargaining chip to survive. Su Qingya was utterly alone. After a long pause, Su Qingya slowly closed her eyes, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll put it on. Zhao Min's eyes lit up. She hurried over to Su Qingya. What did you say? Tears streamed down Su Qingya's swollen face. Her lips trembled as she forced out complete words between gritted teeth. I said, I will wear this. For a heartbeat, the hall fell quiet. Then an uproar broke out. She agreed. Quick, help her get changed. Finally, damn it, I'm dying of thirst. Several girls swarmed forward and hauled Su Qingya to her feet. Zhao Min gripped her arm. Wang Feng pulled at her tattered coat. Li Mingyao picked up the lace garment, shaking off dirt, a malicious smirk on her face. You should have done this from the start. All that stubbornness for 40-odd minutes, making all of us suffer. Su Qingya said nothing. She moved like a puppet stripped of all willpower, submitting passively to the other girls. What are you standing around for? Go get her cleaned. Zhao Min shoved her roughly, then snapped at the remaining girls. Hurry, fetch cold water. Scrub all that muck off her. The girls scrambled toward the backyard. Moments later, they returned carrying basins of ice-cold well water. Splash. A full basin of frigid water was poured straight over Su Qingya's head. She shuddered violently, her teeth chattering. A second basin, then a third followed. Cold well water washed mud and filth down her body, revealing her pale skin underneath. Her wet hair clung to her face. Water droplets trickled down her neck, across her collarbone and chest, mist curling faintly in the chilly air. Zhao Min grabbed a tattered rag and scrubbed roughly at Su Qingya's face, neck and shoulders, wiping away mud, grime, and tear stains. In little time, Su Qingya was thoroughly cleaned. Damp long hair spilled over her shoulders. Her fair skin glowed faintly in the dim firelight. Her face, battered by slaps and doused in cold water, looked fragile and deathly pale. Zhao Min tossed the rag aside and took the lace outfit from Li Mengyao. Raise your arms. Su Qingya stiffly lifted both arms. Zhao Min and the others dressed her. Done. Zhao Min clapped her hands and turned toward Lin Mo, who had not stirred from his chair. She bowed obsequiously. Boss Lin, she's washed and changed. What do you say? Lin Mo lifted his gaze. He looked over Su Qingya, who was restrained by a chain, studying her from head to toe inch by inch. There was no lust or excitement in his eyes, only the cold, amused appraisal of someone examining prey. Do not stand. A sinner ought to kneel. That single soft sentence sent a violent tremor through Su Qingya's frame. She did not move. Her legs felt weighted with lead, and she could not bring herself to bend her knees. Lin Mo did not press her. He simply turned his head slightly, sweeping his gaze across every anxious face in the room. Zhao Min understood instantly. She stepped forward and kicked hard against the back of Su Qingya's knees. Thud! Su Qingya crashed heavily onto the cold floor, sharp pain shooting through her knees. She groaned, bracing her hands against the ground and collapsing at Lin Mo's feet. Lift your head. Su Qingya hesitated, then slowly tilted her chin upward. All makeup had been washed away by the cold water. Her eyes were red and puffy. She had bitten her lips until they bled, and she looked utterly broken. There we go. Cleaned up and put into presentable clothes. You still have some looks about you. Lin Mo leaned back into his chair, speaking as though evaluating merchandise. Certainly better than that filthy creature you were a moment ago. Su Qingya shook all over, jaw clenched tight, yet she dared not utter a word of protest. Su Qingya, do you remember when I delivered a love letter for our classmate Zhao Chong? You mistook it as my confession to you. Do you recall what you said back at school? Lin Mo stared down at her, every word sharp and distinct. You said poor trash like me was not even fit to polish your shoes. You said the men worthy of you, Su Qingya, had to be rich heirs, children of high-ranking officials, or outstanding elites. You said that no matter how many love letters I wrote, no matter how humbly I groveled, I would never be allowed to so much as touch a single hair on your head. Su Qingya's face drained of every last drop of color. Her lips trembled, incapable of speech. And now, Lin Mo looked down at her, a cruel smirk tugging at his lips. Who are you kneeling before? What are you wearing? How are you any different from those entertainers who cater to men's whims? Every word cut like a blade into Su Qingya's heart. She shook convulsively, fresh tears streaming down her cheeks, carving tracks through the dirt. Lin Mo, you have the wrong name. Before she could finish speaking, Lin Mo's voice turned ice cold. Su Qingya jerked her head up, her eyes wide with confusion and terror. Lin Mo looked straight down at her, enunciating each syllable. Lin Mo is not a name you are permitted to speak. Su Qingya froze. The boy Lin Mo, the one you forced to sleep in the doghouse, the one you called worthless trash, the one you drove out of your group, he is dead. Lin Mo's voice was not loud, yet it seemed to make the very air in the hall vibrate. You, Su Qingya, killed him. The moment you turned the whole class against me, the moment you cast me out that door, he ceased to exist. What stands before you now is Boss Lin. He leaned forward, his eyes fixed on her death, pale face, the air heavy with tyrannical dominance. Like Xia Yuqing and the others, you will call me Boss Lin, or Lord Lin. That is the only respectful address you are allowed to use. Su Qingya's pupils dilated in shock. Lin Mo, please, say Lin Mo one more time, and you will be thrown outside. Lin Mo straightened, his tone turning frigid. Back out into the wilderness you came from. No water, no food, no shelter. Freeze to death, or get torn apart by brown bears. Choose for yourself. Drag out a miserable existence, or die a heroic death. I will not force you. Su Qingya trembled uncontrollably. She knelt on the floor in the thin lace outfit, shivering against the bitter chill. Her damp hair clung to her bare back. Outside lay freezing temperatures far below zero. The other girls in the hall watched her with hungry, hostile eyes. If she stepped through that door, she would not survive even one night. Su Qingya's mouth worked. Tears and snot ran down her face. Her pretty features twisted with agony. She bent forward and knocked her forehead hard against the wooden floor. Boss Lin. Once the words left her lips, all strength seemed to leave her body, and she slumped completely at Lin Mo's feet. Lin Mo glanced down at her, his gaze still sharp and cold. Lift your head. Su Qingyao raised her head stiffly. Her face was streaked with tears, her eyes swollen, her lips raw and bitten open. Lin Emo reached out. His rough fingertips brushed lightly over her cold cheek, as one might touch a hard-won trophy. The gesture was eerily gentle. If you had submitted earlier, none of this would have been necessary. His voice dropped, laced with dark amusement. The higher you hold yourself, the more I long to grind you into the mud. This broken state of yours is far more pleasing to behold. Su Qingyao shook silently, endless tears spilling, unable to utter a single reply. Lin Emo pulled his hand away, turned and strode toward the inner room. His thick black bear skin cloak swirled in the dim firelight. Heavy military boots thudded dully against the wooden floor. At the doorway to the inner chamber he paused, without turning his head, tossing out cold words. Do not stand there gawking. Follow me. Su Qingyao shuddered. She pushed herself up. Wood splinters pricked her palms. Her legs felt weak. She struggled several times before she could stand upright. The black lace outfit hung loosely on her body. Her stockings were torn at the knees, revealing dark bruises beneath. Head bowed, her wet hair hanging loose around her, she stumbled forward like a soulless doll and stepped inside. The wooden door to the inner room slowly closed behind her. Creak. That door sealed off the inner chamber from the main hall completely. Dozens of girls stared mutely at the closed door. The atmosphere grew heavy, leaden. No one spoke. The 40 minutes of struggle, shouting, tearing, and weeping had settled into oppressive stillness. Xia Yuqing stood watching the shut door, conflicted feelings churning inside her. She knew what awaited Su Qingyao. Yet she also knew Su Qingyao had brought every bit of this suffering upon herself. Yuqing Jia, is Boss Lin really going to keep Su Qingyao by his side? Lu Jiao lowered her voice, trailing off mid-sentence. Xia Yuqing shook her head and said nothing, only squeezing Lu Jia's hand gently. Zhang Yao folded her arms and let out a cold snort. Su Qingyao deserves every bit of this. When she ripped our coats off and tormented us, she should have foreseen this day. The three of them fell quiet. Still, they worried. What if Boss Lin grew fond of Su Qingyao and kept the vicious woman around? The thought weighed heavily on their hearts. Su Qingyao was their enemy. They could accept Lin Mo making her atone for her misdeeds, but they could hardly bear the thought of living alongside her long-term. On the far side of the hall, Li Xiao huddled in the corner, clutching tight to Yang Shuanghua's sleeve, her voice shaking. Shuanghua Jia, is he really going to keep Su Qingyao with him? Yang Shuanghua adjusted her glasses. Her eyes behind the lenses were cold and complicated. Everything has already come this far. What do you think? Li Xiao bit her lip and dared not ask further. The lawless wilderness without morality or order had once again revealed its harsh reality to her. Chun-Shi leaned against a pile of dry hay. Her eyes were closed, her breathing steady, her face giving nothing away. Her injured left arm had fully healed. The herbal salve was extraordinarily potent, sealing even deep, gaping wounds in mere seconds. Yet instead of joy at her recovery, a heavy weight pressed down on her mind. It was not that she pitied Su Qingyao. Considering all the harm Su Qingyao had done, she could not bring herself to feel sympathy for her fate. But Lin Mo, this man terrified her. He did not merely destroy people with words. He stripped away every layer of human dignity, crushed it to dust, and forced the victim to bow and acknowledge their own humiliation. In the wilderness, a man like him was the most fearsome predator of all. Meanwhile, inside the inner room, unlike the cold, damp main hall, this small inner chamber, though worn, had been thoroughly cleaned by Lin Mo. Junk was stacked in one corner. Thick hay covered the floor, layered over with several soft wolf pelts that shimmered silver, gray in the faint glow of the fireplace. These items were all taken out of the storage space by Lin Mo. Su Qingyao stood behind the door, her whole body trembling. She hung her head, her arms wrapped tightly around her chest. Through the tears in her fishnet stockings, her bruised and swollen knees were visible. Wet long hair clung to her face, covering most of it, revealing only a badly bitten lower lip. Lin Mo had taken off his black bear skin greatcoat and tossed it casually over a nearby wooden rack. He turned around, leaned against the wall with his arms crossed, and watched her calmly. Still standing there, Su Qingyao shuddered all over and slowly lifted her head. Tears welled up on her face once more. Lin, master, her voice was broken. I beg you, spare me. Please, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Lin Mo's eyes showed no emotion. Wrong. He straightened up and stepped towards Su Qingyao, looking down at her. What exactly were you wrong about? Su Qingyao shook violently, tears streaming non-stop. I shouldn't have looked down on you. I shouldn't have incited everyone to isolate you. What else? Lin Mo's voice was icy cold. And I shouldn't have robbed Xia Yuqing and the others of their belongings. I shouldn't have stripped them when they had nowhere to turn. I shouldn't have treated my classmates' lives as worthless. Su Qingya spoke faster and faster, pouring out all her sins, hoping to earn mercy. What else? Lin Mo repeated those 3 words, cutting at her heart like a dull blade. Su Qingya froze. What else was there? What more could she say? Lin Mo watched her bewildered look and curled his lip into a cold smile. Su Qingya, do you think those are your real mistakes? He reached out, gripped her chin, and forced her to look up. Your real failings lie in your inherent double standards and arrogance. You thought you were born superior. You believed your looks and wealth would keep you above everyone else forever. You thought men ought to give way to you unconditionally and submit to you. You saw everyone but yourself as disposable tools. You never regarded other people as human beings. Xia Yuqing, Zhang Yao, me, in your eyes, we were all tools, ants you could trample on at will. He let go and stepped back, his tone flat and detached. That is why I will not kill you. Killing you would be too easy for you. I will let you live. You will remember this day. Remember how you knelt before me. Remember every word that came out of your mouth. Su Qingya collapsed onto the ground, tears pouring down her face. Lin Mo said no more. He reached out, grabbed her by the neck, and lifted her bodily off the floor. Remember, your fate today was not forced upon you by me. Lin Mo's low, cold voice rang beside her ear. You reaped what you sowed. In the great hall, time ticked by. Faint noises coming from the inner room weighed heavily on everyone's spirits. Xia Yuqing, Lu Jia, and Zhang Yao stood near the fireplace, keeping watch over the threshold leading outside with blank expressions. The other girls were scattered across the hall. Some huddled in corners with their knees drawn up. Some stared down at the ground, lost in thought. Others covered their ears, their faces full of conflicting feelings. Li Xiao clutched Yang Shuanghua's hand so hard her knuckles whitened. Her lips trembled, yet she swallowed back whatever she had wanted to say. Yang Shuanghua pushed up her glasses and whispered one word. Fate. That single word summed everything up. In the corner, Lu Yinyan leaned against a weathered wooden pillar, her face deathly pale. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, and said nothing in the end. Chun-Shi kept her eyes shut the whole time, holding a wooden spear. No emotion showed on her face. Only her fingers gripping the shaft trembled faintly. An hour later, creak. The wooden door to the inner chamber swung open from within. Lin Mo strode out, draped in his black bear skin greatcoat. His coat hung partly open, revealing his well-built chest marked by several shallow scratch marks. Yet he looked far from exhausted. He appeared invigorated, more energetic than when he had gone inside. Such was the unreasonable power of 3 times normal physical resilience. Dozens of girls in the hall lifted their heads as one. They watched Lin Mo walk out. Some unconsciously licked their dry lips. Some clenched their fists nervously. Others stole glances through the open crack of the inner room door. Lin Mo did not look back. He waved his right hand. A parcel of roasted meat wrapped in oiled paper materialized in his grasp, and he tossed it onto the dirt floor. Thud! The paper wrapper split open, exposing golden, glistening meat. Rich aroma quickly filled the hall. Compensation. Lin Mo wore a mocking smirk. His voice carried far enough for everyone present to hear. Let your former school beauty have this to restore her strength. Several girls burned with shame as they understood the implication behind his words. At that very moment, ding. Congratulations, host, for completing hidden mission, Tyrant of the Wasteland. Rewards received. Survival points plus 500, intermediate combat skill book ×1, special title Tyrants Aura passive. Inflicts mental suppression on hostile targets. Bonus reward. Outstanding performance during the mission has unlocked hidden achievement Wrath of the Tyrant. Additional survival points plus 300 current survival point balance, 2178. Special notice. Host's base physique is 3 times that of an ordinary human. Prerequisites for the Tyrant buff have been met. Due to your overwhelming dominance and psychological pressure displayed in this mission, the Tyrant buff is now activated. Tyrant buff effects. All attributes plus 100% based on current physique. Extra intimidation against the weak-willed. Small chance to trigger fear stun, briefly immobilizing targets. Current host comprehensive physique rating. 6 times that of an ordinary human. Boom. Scorching heat surged through Lin Mo's limbs and torso, flowing through his veins like molten magma. Every cell greedily absorbed this new power. His bones gave faint popping sounds. Beneath the bare skin coat, his muscles swelled then relaxed. A fleeting glint of gold flashed deep in his eyes. 6 times baseline human capability. Before, taking down a brown bear had required skill and evasive tactics. Now, faced with a sub-adult brown bear, he could stand his ground against it and kill it within a few exchanges without sustaining injury. Lin Mo slowly clenched his fist, feeling the explosive power inside him, a satisfied smile tugging at his lips. The girls in the hall could not perceive the system changes, yet they instinctively sensed that Lin Mo's aura had shifted. Where once he inspired oppression and fear, his presence now felt almost tangible. Like an ancient beast fresh from a sea of blood, his mere appearance made legs turn weak. Several standing girls stepped backward, pressing their backs against cold walls to stay upright. At the same time, a staggering figure crawled out over the threshold. It was Su Qingya. Her clothes were rumpled and disheveled. One strap of her outfit had slipped down, exposing her pale shoulder. Her fishnet stockings were torn in multiple places. Her knees were covered in dark bruises. Her hair hung matted around her face, streaked with dried tears. She dragged herself forward on hands and knees. The instant she cleared the doorway, her gaze locked onto the parcel of meat on the ground. Then she did something that stunned every witness. She threw herself forward. Like a starved creature stripped of reason, she seized the parcel, tore open the wrapping, and stuffed greasy chunks of meat into her mouth. Muffled chewing sounds escaped her. Grease ran down her chin onto her tattered clothes and the floor. She barely chewed, swallowing large mouthfuls even when she choked. No trace remained of the poised school beauty. Her manners were those of a ravenous wild animal. A heavy silence fell across the hall. Dozens of girls stared in shock at the once arrogant Su Qingya reduced to this state. Some turned their heads away, unable to watch. Some licked their lips with complicated expressions. Others sneered. Humph, who would have thought Su Qingya would end up like this? Zhao Min leaned against the wall, loud enough for those nearby to hear. She used to be so haughty. Even a glance from Lin Mo would make her call him creepy. Now look at her, groveling for food. Wang Fong said nothing, but her mocking smile spoke volumes. Li Mingyao shrank in the corner, her thoughts unreadable. Near the fireplace, Xia Yuqing, Lu Jia, and Zhang Yao watched. They hated Su Qingya for past bullying, theft, and humiliation. Yet seeing her stripped of all dignity, they felt little satisfaction, only a cold sense of unease. Su Qingya finished the last piece of meat. She sat on the ground, hands and face slick with grease, holding the empty wrapper in a daze. Slowly she lifted her head. Gone were her old arrogance and the raw terror of moments before. In her eyes burned a warped, obsessive light. She stared at Lin Mo as if he were an object that belonged to her. Lin Mo had broken her pride. Therefore, in her mind, he ought to take responsibility for her. Just like in old-fashioned stories, when a man took a woman, he must marry her and provide for her forever. Lin Mo, her voice was hoarse, unsettlingly fixated. You belong to me, don't you? The whole hall fell still. You had dealings with me. Su Qingya stumbled to her feet, oblivious to her slipping clothing. She advanced toward Lin Mo, obsession blazing brighter in her gaze. You are my first man. You have to take responsibility for me. From now on you can only be mine. She reached out to grab his sleeve. Send Xia Yuqing and the others away. I don't want you with them. I hate you looking at other women. Only look at me. Only dote on me. I can be far more obedient than them. Just drive them away. I will do anything for you. The air in the hall seemed to freeze. Everyone stared at her as though she were insane. Only a short while ago she had knelt begging for mercy, and now she demanded Lin Mo cast aside the other girls. Zhao Min's jaw dropped. Li Mingyao looked utterly bewildered. Li Xiao covered her mouth, barely holding back laughter. Has she lost her mind? Who does she think she is? Yang Shuanghua pushed her glasses up, her brows drawn tight. This is simple madness. Her mental defenses have completely collapsed. She has constructed a fantasy for herself. She sees herself as a wronged noble lady seized by a tyrant, and believes she deserves exclusive favor. It is a psychological defense mechanism, traumatic rationalization. Unable to accept the truth of her defeat, she twists reality into believing he acted out of overwhelming affection for her. Li Xiao stared in disbelief. People can really convince themselves of that. Human beings will invent any justification to keep surviving. Yang Shuanghua replied coldly. In the corner, Qinshi frowned. Her grip on her spear tightened, her disgust deepening. Su Qingya left no room for anyone to pity her. Beside Lin Mo, Zhang Yao and Lu Jia stared in shock. Su Qingya, what on earth are you saying? Zhang Yao stepped forward, blazing with anger. Have you gone crazy? What makes you think Lin Mo belongs to you? Who do you think you are? Lu Jia's face hardened. You have been pushed past your breaking point. We have not finished settling scores with you, yet you grow more insolent. Xia Yuqing remained silent, watching Su Qingya with cold eyes. Su Qingya ignored them completely, her obsessive gaze fixed solely on Lin Imo. Lin Imo, no, Master Lin. She licked grease from her lips, a deranged smile spreading across her face. Send them away. I hate them staying by your side. You are my man. From tonight onward, you will belong only to me. Lin Imo had stood silent this whole time. At last he looked down at the unhinged woman before him. Smack! A resounding slap sent Su Qingya flying across the room. She crashed heavily into a wooden table. Table and woman toppled over. Broken bowls shattered around her, shards cutting her arm, blood welling from the wound. Su Qingya lay dazed on the floor, clutching her stinging cheek. Lin Imo withdrew his hand, looking down at her with undisguised revulsion. Do you imagine my actions toward you meant I felt anything for you? His voice cut like shards of ice. Su Qingya, understand this clearly. What happened earlier was punishment. Punishment for your past deeds, for your arrogance, malice, and hypocrisy. You are nothing more than a tool to me. Do you truly believe you deserve for me to cast aside Xia Yuqing and the others? Do you think you deserve to claim me exclusively? Lin Imo let out a bitter laugh. You dream impossible dreams. In my eyes, you are worth less than a single strand of Xia Yuqing's hair. Su Qingya trembled violently on the floor. Fresh tears splashed onto the planks. Broken, muffled sobs escaped her throat. But you still. She lifted her tear-streaked face, her warped fixation unbroken. You still dealt with me. That makes you my man. How can you treat me like this? What do they have that I lack? Su Qingya scrambled back to her feet and stumbled toward him, pointing furiously at Xia Yuqing and her friends, her voice shrill and unhinged. What is so good about them? Xia Yuqing is nothing but a bookworm. Lu Jia is just a follower. Zhang Yao is hot, tempered. I am prettier. I have a far better figure. My family background outshines theirs 10,000 times over. Why choose them over me? Why would you want them instead of me? What am I lacking? She shrieked hysterically, tears and spittle mixing together, completely losing hold of reason. Lin Imo watched her outburst with a blank expression, as if observing a performing clown. You think you are beautiful? He gave a cold chuckle. Look at the state you are in now. What beauty do you have left? You speak of your wealthy family. He glanced over her with contempt. Then call your father to rescue you. Let him fly here in his private jet with his lawyers to reason with you in this wilderness. Aren't you the daughter of the Sioux group? Why can you not even get clean drinking water? Why must you grovel for scraps of meat? Where is your status? Where is your superiority? Where is everything you once took pride in? Su Qingya could not find a single retort. She stood shaking, tears streaming without cease. Lin Imo turned away from her and swept his gaze across the whole assembly. I will say this one final time. My camp is not a dumping ground. Dealing with someone does not mean I must keep them. Su Qingya, your past conduct has sealed your fate. To me, you are nothing more than a stray dog I can cast aside whenever I wish. Know your place. Ignoring her broken weeping on the floor, his gaze shifted elsewhere, toward Lu Yunyan. The once graceful, admired teacher cowered in the corner, her face chalk white. She had witnessed everything. Su Qingya crawling out in disarray, her insane demand for exclusive affection, the brutal slap. When Lin Mo's eyes landed on her, she flinched and shrank backward. Lin Imo smiled. It was an amused, cold smile, the look of a hunter spotting new prey. Teacher Lu. He spoke the title with heavy sarcasm. You have been watching from the sidelines this whole time. Have you nothing to say? Lu Yunyan shuddered. Her lips quivered. At last she forced words out, her voice trembling visibly. Master Lin, what you did to Su Qingya was far too cruel. In the real world, this would carry heavy legal consequences. You would face severe punishment. You are committing a crime. This is coercion. You're humiliating someone's dignity. Even if we're out in the wilderness with no laws, you cannot trample on a person's self-respect like this. She grew more agitated as she spoke, seemingly relishing the familiar feeling of sitting on a moral high ground to pass judgment on others. Since you have wronged Su Qingya, you ought to take responsibility for her. You are a man. You should act with integrity. You have ample supplies and tremendous strength right now. You could help everyone survive together. Why must you act this way? Why resort to such methods? These are the acts of a tyrant, a brute. Lu Yunyan finished her outburst in one breath. Her chest heaved violently, and her eyes burned with near, frenzied light. She was taking a gamble. She gambled that Lin Ba still retained some humanity, that he would still be restrained by morality, and that her words could win the group a chance to stay alive. Yet, after listening, Lin Ba merely raised an eyebrow, a mocking smile tugging at his lips. Finished. He stepped forward, closing the distance until he stood over Lu Yunyan, looking down at her. Teacher Lu, have you misunderstood something? His voice was quiet, yet it pressed down on her until she could barely breathe. Everything you just said assumes this is the real world. But this is not the real world. This is an isolated wilderness. There are no laws, no conventional morality, no guaranteed human rights, no sense of shame. Lin Ba leaned slightly forward, locking eyes with her terrified gaze. The only rule here is that strength decides everything. And I am the strongest person in this wilderness. If I truly were the unscrupulous tyrant, the inhuman brute you claim I am, I could kill every single one of you right now and leave your bodies for the wolves. Or I could bind you all and do whatever I pleased. Could you resist? Would you stand any chance? Lu Yunyan's face turned deathly pale. Luckily for you, I am still human. I still hold on to basic decency from my upbringing. Lin Ba straightened, his tone laced with sarcasm. I have not done any of that. I only gave Su Qingya a fitting punishment to make her pay for her past actions. My methods may have been harsh, but she is still alive. She can eat. She can breathe. In fact, thanks to my misplaced mercy, all of you get the chance to earn survival supplies from me through games. And what about you, Teacher Lu? Lin Ba shifted his focus, his gaze turning sharp. What have you done? Lu Yunyan opened her mouth, yet no words came out. Since arriving in this wilderness, have you hunted? Have you built shelter? Have you secured anything practical for the group? No. From start to finish, you have done only one thing: play the neutral peacemaker. When Su Qingya bullied Xia Yuqing, you played peacemaker. When Su Qingya stole fish and meat, you played peacemaker. When Su Qingya pushed people to the brink, still you played peacemaker. Worse still, you never balanced things fairly. Your so-called collective good meant asking the weak to sacrifice so the powerful could benefit. Meanwhile, you perched on your moral high ground, enjoying your reputation as a fair-minded teacher. You have lost all right to lecture me about morality. Lin Ba let out a cold laugh. Because you possess none yourself. Lu Yunyan's complexion shifted from white to bluish, green, then flushed red. Her lips trembled. She staggered backward 2 steps as though all strength had drained from her body. You are lying. She fought a last-ditch effort. I was doing this for everyone's sake. Ha ha, for everyone's sake. How noble. Lin Ba laughed as though hearing the greatest joke. He waved his hand. A faint glimmer flickered in his palm. The next instant, an outfit materialized out of thin air, and he tossed it hard at Lu Yunyan. It was an elaborate set of decorative clothing, nearly identical to the one Su Qingya had worn moments earlier. Lu Yunyan was stunned as it hit her. She froze where she stood, her face ashen. What is the meaning of this? Her voice shook uncontrollably. Lin Ba folded his arms, a cruel smirk playing across his face. Teacher Lu, you keep spouting high-sounding morals. You go on about collective good and sacrificing for others. Very well. He paused, his voice turning icy. Put this on, then perform a Latin dance for me. Show me what you can do. You want to win your group the chance to survive? Then give me some real proof of that commitment. All color drained completely from Lu Yunyan's face. Her mind buzzed. No, this cannot be. She stumbled backward until her back slammed against the cold wooden wall. Every hair stood on end, like a cat cornered. Lin Ba, you have lost your mind. Her voice shrilled with terror and humiliation. I am your teacher, the lead chaperone. How dare you ask me to wear something like this? I am your elder. This is outrageous. Lin Ba raised an eyebrow, his mocking smile deepening. Teacher? Weren't you the one saying you were no longer our teacher? When Su Qingya wanted to drive me out of the farm, you suggested I work all day and serve you at night. Where was your teacher's dignity then? Why do you suddenly remember you are our teacher only when you want to morally pressure me? Lu Yunyan had no retort. She bit hard into her lip, her whole body shaking. Furthermore, Lin Ba stepped closer, towering over her. Earlier you talked about fighting for the group's survival, about me taking responsibility for Su Qingya, about integrity and honor for men. Now it is your turn. As a teacher, shouldn't you set an example and fight for your students' chance to live? Lu Yunyan parted her lips, but could find no counter-argument. The very rhetoric she had used against Lin Ba was thrown back at her, leaving her speechless. I will not put this on. She finally found her voice and screamed hysterically. I am a teacher. I cannot wear such clothing. I would rather starve. How can all of you stand by, watching me be humiliated like this? Won't anyone speak up? She turned toward the other girls in the hall, hoping someone would take her side. But no one. Not a single person stepped forward. The girls watched coldly, as if observing a stranger's misfortune. Li Xiao sat huddled in the corner, knees drawn up to her chest, head bowed. lost in thought. Yang Shuanghua adjusted her glasses, her face impassive. Wang Feng licked her lips, gaze darting between Lin Ba and Lu Yunyan, calculating. As for Chen Shi, she leaned against the haystack, eyes shut, seemingly oblivious to everything happening around her. Xia Yuqing stood beside Lin Ba, watching Lu Yunyan without expression, saying nothing. Lu Jia and Zhang Yao exchanged glances and also kept silent. When Lu Yunyan's gaze swept across the crowd and met another pair of eyes, she froze. It was Su Qingya. Su Qingya had gotten back to her feet, wiped the tears and grime from her face, and put on an old coat found in the back room to cover her earlier outfit. She stood at the edge of the crowd, arms folded, staring at Lu Yunyan with an extremely complicated, icy look. There was a flicker of grim satisfaction in her eyes. Moments ago, Su Qingya had been publicly disgraced. Now seeing another person trapped in the same predicament, a twisted sense of relief welled inside her. I am not the only one going through this. You too cannot escape. Lu Yunyan's heart turned ice cold. She stared hard at Lin Ba, her teeth grinding. Lin Ba, you cannot treat me this way. I am still your teacher. You hardly deserve that title. Lin Ba sneered. You condoned bullying, took sides, manipulated students with morality, and kicked people when they were down. In my eyes, you are scarcely better than Su Qingya. He glanced at the system, displayed time floating in mid-air, his tone growing colder. I will give you 10 seconds to decide. If you refuse after 10 seconds, starting this afternoon, all of you go back to having no food or water. But if you are willing to make this small sacrifice for me, all this meat, fresh water, and sanitary supplies will be yours. I keep my word. His words were ostensibly directed at Lu Yunyan, yet meant for every girl present. Sure enough, the instant he finished speaking, the previously silent girls' faces shifted. Teacher Lu, just put it on. It is only clothes. Yes. Wear it, and we eat and drink. It beats starving to death. Teacher Lu, you are always talking about collective sacrifice. This is the moment to do it for everyone. Right. You pushed Su Qingya into this position before. Now it is your turn. One urging, condemning remark after another cut into Lu Yunyan like knives. She trembled violently. Her face went from pale to bluish, green, flushed red, then turned a lifeless gray. She tried to speak, yet her throat felt blocked, no sound coming out. 10, 9, 8. Lin Ba began his countdown, slow and unhurried, sounding like a death knell ringing for everyone in the room. 7, 6, 5. Lu Yunyan's hands shook. All strength seeped from her body, and she leaned weakly against the wall. 4, 3, 2. I will do it. Lu Yunyan screamed the words with every ounce of strength left inside her. The second the words left her mouth, her spirit seemed broken. She sank onto the floor, tears streaming uncontrollably. Lin Ba's countdown stopped. A satisfied smile appeared on his face. He stepped back and sat down on a broken chair, crossing one leg over the other. Then put it on. Do not keep everyone waiting. Lu Yunyan sat on the ground shaking, tears pouring down her face. She stared at the decorative outfit on the floor, as if it were a venomous snake, every pattern appearing like fangs ready to tear away her last shred of dignity. What are you staring at? Should I get someone to help you change? Lin Ba spoke with faint impatience. Lu Yunyan flinched. Slowly her trembling hand reached out and grasped the ornate fabric. It felt cool and slippery beneath her fingers. She closed her eyes and drew a deep breath. When she opened them again, she fixed Lin Ba with a hard stare and spoke in the firmest tone she could muster. I will change inside the back room. That is, the last bit of dignity I have left. Leaning back in his chair, Lin Ba raised an eyebrow. He had not expected Lu Yunyan to negotiate terms even now. Still, this final desperate struggle made the situation more interesting. Fine. He jerked his chin toward the inner room, speaking dismissively as though addressing an insect. Go change. Do not make me wait too long. Biting hard on her lip, Lu Yunyan grabbed the outfit and turned to enter the back room. She held her back straight with every step, clinging desperately to outward composure, like a peacock stripped of feathers, yet still forcing itself to display. Lin Ba watched her vanish behind the door and smirked. This woman was nothing like Su Qingya. Su Qingya's arrogance sat plainly on the surface. Once shattered, she threw tantrums and shifted blame. Lu Yunyan's pride ran deep. All her life, she had been respected, accustomed to looking down on others from above, hiding injustice behind phrases like, "This is for your own good." Even dragged into the mud, she would cling stubbornly to every trace of her status. And it was precisely that stubborn poise Lin Ba wanted to strip away. He wondered whether the refined female instructor would still maintain her teacher's facade once she stepped out wearing that outfit. Silence hung over the main hall for a moment. Zhao Min, Wang Fong, and the others exchanged glances, a mix of anticipation and unease in their eyes. Huddled in a corner wrapped in her old coat, Su Qingya's hair remained damp. Traces of tears and grime still marked her face, yet a sick smile tugged at her lips. Lu Yunyan, not long ago when I was surrounded, you stood tallest, making all those righteous speeches. You talked about people needing to make sacrifices. Now you get to taste that sacrifice yourself. Now it is your turn. She licked her cracked lips, twisted satisfaction glinting in her gaze. Xia Yuqing walked over beside Lin Ba and lowered her voice. Lin Ba, are you really going to make Teacher Lu go through with this? Lin Ba glanced toward her, the coldness in his eyes softening slightly. Do you think I should not? Xia Yuqing shook her head. When she stood by while Su Qingya tormented us, she never thought about us being her students. She paused briefly. Only, she is nearly 30 years old. Are you certain you want to do this? She did not finish the thought, yet her meaning was clear. Lin Ba reached out and ruffled her hair. Do not get the wrong idea. I have no further plans for her for now. Though who knows what the future holds. He trailed off with a smirk, then changed subject before she could press him. How long will those 2 roasted lamb chops keep them going? Caught off guard, Xia Yuqing answered honestly. When portions were handed out, 31 people each only got a tiny bite, barely enough to quiet hunger. Without more food and water, they will not last past tomorrow evening. Exactly. Lin Ba leaned back, folding his arms as his gaze swept across the girls watching the inner room door. What happened with Su Qingya was only the opening act. These people have just gotten a taste of enough to survive, yet the supply can be cut off at any time. Hunger and fear are at their peak right now. This is the perfect moment for Lu Yunyan's turn. He spoke coolly, calculating. Su Qingya was one of their peers, domineering even among them. It cost them little to turn against her. But Lu Yunyan is their teacher, someone who once stood at the front of the classroom educating them. Watching their own teacher lose her dignity makes this spectacle far more impactful. Mixed feelings stirred inside Xia Yuqing. She looked at Lin Ba's coldly calm profile, then scanned the varied expressions across the other girls. She said nothing more and firmly squeezed his hand. Lin Ba squeezed hers in return. Rest assured I know what I am doing. Lu Yunyan needs her pretenses torn down completely. Otherwise she will always believe she is above me. Right then, the inner room door opened. Every pair of eyes turned toward it. Lu Yunyan stood in the doorway in a decorative outfit. Delicate fabric wrapped around her figure. Thin shoulder straps threatened to slip off. She had maintained a good figure over the years, mature and full rather than youthful and slender. But what drew everyone's attention most was her expression. Lu Yunyan bit her lip hard, eyes red, tears welling yet forcing themselves not to fall. One hand tugged down constantly at the hem of the clothing. The other held across her chest in a futile attempt for modesty. She was shaking from head to toe. Bruises marked her knees from knocking against the floor while changing inside. Her hair had been clumsily tied in a low ponytail. Stray strands fell across her death, pale face, accentuating her misery. This was Lu Yunyan, the elegant, refined, admired female teacher who once stood before her class. Now she stood barefoot before her former students, trembling uncontrollably. Complete silence reigned for 3 full seconds in the hall. Then, Zhao Min could not hold back a snort. She clapped a hand over her mouth, yet her shoulders shook. One by one other girls followed. Suppressed snickers spread through the room like an infection. Several laughed openly, undisguised schadenfreude in their voices. Lu Yunyan had always aligned herself with Su Qingya, helping to pressure the other girls time and again. Now justice had caught up to her. Standing there, Lu Yunyan heard those laughs cutting at herself, respect like dull blades. Her eyes burned hotter. She bit her lip until it nearly bled. Tears spilled over, streaking down her cheeks. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She stepped forward, bare feet touching the dirty floor covered in mud and wood shavings. She walked slowly toward the center of the hall. With each step the fabric rode upward. She tugged constantly at it, yet the flimsy material offered no proper coverage. She walked forward shaking all over, refusing to bend or bow her head, like a pine tree nearly snapped by blizzards, stubbornly clinging to its last trace of strength. At last she reached the center of the hall before Lin Ba. I have changed. Her voice came out hoarse, every word forced out. You will keep your promise now. Leaning back in his chair, Lin Ba gave no reply. He tilted his head slightly, his gaze starting from the top of her head and moving slowly downward. Her neck, shoulder line, waist, legs covered in fishnet tights, and bare ankles, he missed not a single part. His gaze was neither greedy nor fervent. On the contrary, it was far too indifferent, sending a chill down one's spine. He was not looking at a woman. He was appraising a trophy. Turn around. His voice was casual and unconcerned. Lu Yunyan shuddered as if jolted by electricity. What did you say? I said. Lin Ba's voice deepened slightly, carrying undeniable pressure. Turn around. Let me see what you look like fully clothed. Lu Yunyan bit her lip hard. Her fingernails dug into her palms, drawing faint streaks of blood. She closed her eyes and turned slowly, stiffly. Her skirt flared for a split second as she spun. She tried frantically to hold it down, but it was too late. Several girls let out suppressed snickers, like lashing whips against bare skin. That will do. Lin Ba spoke at last. He clenched his right hand in mid-air. A faint glimmer flashed, and a portable Bluetooth speaker materialized in his grasp. He had exchanged this item from the system shop for dozens of survival points before. He had played music for Xia Yuqing and the others with it. And now it would serve its purpose once more. He set the speaker down on the rickety wooden table and pressed play. A fiery, rhythmic Latin dance track burst forth abruptly inside the run-down, frigid log cabin. Dense drum beats and alluring melodies evoked the heat and atmosphere of tropical beaches, creating an absurd contrast against the sub-zero cold outside. Lu Yunyan's eyes widened sharply. She knew this piece well. She had taken Latin dance as a university elective and had visited dance studios occasionally after starting work. Lin Ba's intention in playing the song could not have been clearer. Isn't Teacher Lu skilled at Latin dance? Lin Ba folded his arms across his chest, crossed his legs, and wore a chilling smirk. Then give us a proper demonstration. Let your students broaden their horizons. Never. Lu Yunyan screamed instinctively, fresh tears spilling over. Lin Ba, you cannot do this. I am a teacher. I am their teacher. Oh. Leaning back against the tattered chair, Lin Ba wore a mocking smile. Where was your dignified teacher's bearing when you were changing in the back room just now? If you truly were an outstanding teacher, your good students would not be looking at you the way they are right now. Lu Yunyan trembled all over and whipped her head to look around. Within the dim hall, the faces that had once shown her deference now held no sympathy, no desire to defend her. There was only the thrill of watching a spectacle, mocking schadenfreude, and malice eager to see her fall from grace. Her heart turned cold bit by bit. One final warning. Lin Ba's tone was calm, yet piercingly cold. The track runs 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Finish dancing, and I will keep my word. Meat, water, sanitary supplies, everyone will receive their share. Refuse, and do not blame me for being harsh. He paused, sweeping his gaze across the room, enunciating every word. From today onward, neither you nor these girls will get even a single drop of water from me. It was a familiar threat, yet devastatingly effective. In this morally collapsed frozen wilderness, whoever controlled food and water held the power of life and death. Lu Yunyan slowly closed her eyes. 2 streams of tears rolled down her cheeks and splashed onto the icy floorboards. She drew a deep breath and moved. Her first movement was stiff, as though her joints were rusted shut. She could barely lift her arms. Her legs beneath her thin clothing shuffled awkwardly across the floor, completely out of sync with the fiery Latin rhythm pouring from the speaker. Lin Ba did not call a halt. He merely narrowed his eyes, radiating invisible pressure. The tyrant's aura brought about by his 6-fold physical constitution hung heavy in the air even without being directed at her. The frigid weight made it difficult for the already broken, spirited woman to breathe. Lu Yunyan felt it. His stare pressed down on her shoulders like a mountain, compelling her to bow her proud head. Gritting her teeth, she forced herself to match the music's tempo. The song reached its first chorus. Gradually, her body loosened up. Years of elective training had left muscle memory. Once awakened, her movements lost much of their awkwardness. Her hips swayed with greater range, her waist twisting fluidly, tracing sharp arcs across the floor. Sweat trickled down her forehead, ran over her pale neck and into her collarbone, glinting in the flickering firelight. Her breathing grew ragged, her chest rising and falling heavily, yet her movements grew more assured and practiced. It was almost as if she sought to escape reality through this punishing exertion. If she danced hard enough, she would not need to think about what she was wearing or the sharp, judging eyes all around her. But this desperate dedication landed very differently in the eyes of the onlookers. There was mature poise warring with humiliation and helplessness, borne out under the crushing weight of survival. The hall's earlier snickers faded away. A heavy silence descended instead. The girls watched Lu Yunyan spin and sway in the center of the room, tears streaking her once composed face even as she held her posture through every step. The scorn on their faces ebbed, replaced by unspoken shock. Lu Yunyan was fighting for her own life. and she was fighting for all of theirs too. Only moments before, they had laughed at her without restraint. Lin Ba's expression shifted subtly. He had begun slouched, observing what felt like a trivial show. Now he sat upright, his dark eyes fixed intently on the figure wrapped in dark fabric in the middle of the hall. Lu Yunyan's stubborn refusal to break completely, even when defeat was inevitable, intrigued him far more than simple submission ever could. This woman, who had hidden behind high-minded morality to judge others, now endured with gritted teeth. It stoked his urge to strip away every layer of her polished public persona, shatter it, and make her accept the harsh truth of their world. The true amusement of this wilderness game was only just beginning. The music drew to a close. Lu Yunyan completed her final spin and stumbled to a stop. She braced her hands on her knees, gasping for air. Sweat dripped from her hair, mixing with mud on the ground. She lifted her head. Her bloodshot eyes brimmed with humiliated tears, her voice hoarse. "I am finished. Are you satisfied now?" Lin Ba stood. He did not answer immediately. He sauntered over to Lu Yunyan and looked down at her. "Not bad." He reached out, his rough thumb brushing away a tear on her hot cheek, his tone dismissive. More compelling than the performance Su Qingya put on earlier. Not far away, Su Qingya, huddled in a tattered coat, stiffened. She clenched her fists so tightly her nails dug into her flesh, yet she dared not make a sound. Lu Yunyan bit down hard and did not pull away from his touch. The pressure and warmth of his hand made her tremble, yet she possessed no courage to resist. "Lin Ba, you gave your word. Now that I have danced, give everyone food and water. I keep my promises." Lin Ba withdrew his hand and turned toward the crowd of starving girls, raising his voice so loudly the wooden walls hummed. "Listen to me, all of you. I, Lin Ba, stand by my word. Since Teacher Lu has earned these supplies for you with her performance, I shall not go back on my word." Joy burst across their gaunt faces. Some covered their mouths, eyes glistening. After days of hunger, hope was finally within reach. But his next words poured icy water over their elation, freezing every expression in place. These provisions were earned by Lu Yunyan at the cost of her dignity. Since this is her achievement, I shall decide how they are distributed. He turned, his deep gaze landing directly on Xia Yuqing, Lu Jia, and Zhang Yao. From this day forward, all food and water allocated to this farm will be managed entirely by the three of you. The three girls lifted their heads in unison, stunned. Xia Yuqing recovered first, her voice trembling faintly. "Lin Ba, do you mean?" Bang! Lin Ba swung his right arm. Chunks of rich raw meat and 2 sacks of white salt materialized and crashed heavily onto the broken central table. The dull thud made every heart in the room lurch. "Distribution falls completely to the three of you." Lin Ba spoke quietly yet resolutely, each word hammering into every girl's ears. "Remember, this food does not belong to everyone. It belongs to you three. Give portions to whomever you wish. If you choose not to give someone anything, they get nothing at all." He whipped his head around, cold eyes slicing across the hall. "Anyone with objections may speak up now." Dead silence reigned. No one stepped forward. No one even dared breathe too loudly. The girls, who had just rejoiced over the prospect of meat, sank into dread. They glanced at the raw meat reeking on the table, then towards Xia Yuqing and her 2 companions clad in wolf skin coats, their eyes filling with confusion, envy, and deep wariness. After their brief shock, Xia Yuqing, Lu Jia, and Zhang Yao fully understood Lin Ba's plan. They exchanged glances and slowly raised their heads, scanning the assembly. All the old hurts lingered. The bullying at Su Qingya's hands, the unfair partiality shown by Lu Yunyan, the terror of being cast out into the snow to die. Now those memories hardened into icy resolve in their eyes. Xia Yuqing stepped forward and rested her palm firmly atop one chunk of meat. Her voice was soft, yet heavy enough to make the air tremble. "Rest assured, we know exactly how to handle distribution." Lu Jia wore a knowing cold smirk. "Indeed, certain old scores are long overdue to be settled." Zhang Yao was even more direct. She hefted 1 sack of salt, her indifferent gaze sweeping over the pale faces of Su Qingya, Zhao Min, Li Mengyao, and the others. Those targeted flinched, their legs turning weak beneath her vengeful stare. In a corner, Chunxi leaned against a pile of dry hay and watched the dramatic scene unfold. Her gaze drifted from Lin Ba to the trio, then to the supplies that meant life or death. She slowly closed her eyes. Power had changed hands. 3 girls once crushed at the very bottom of the farm, treated as worthless vermin, now stood at the top of their small, brutal hierarchy. And all of it stemmed from a single sentence spoken by one man. Xia Yuqing's palm rested on the cold raw meat. rough texture and bore, scent pressed against her skin. Her knuckles whitened, yet her hand stayed steady. She lifted her eyes and surveyed the crowd before her, reading every shifting emotion on their faces. Once, these people had stood by apathetically, or even reveled in others' misfortune. On the night Su Qingya stripped away their warm outer layers, no one had intervened. When they had been driven out of the farm, facing death beneath wild boar tusks, no one had offered help. Now it was time for reckoning. Lu Jia Zhang Yao. Xia Yuqing's voice hung heavy in the air. Both responded at once, barely containing their sharp excitement. Here, divide the meat into 10 portions. Split the salt into 10 small shares as well. Xia Yuqing scanned the room. Make every portion clear and distinct. Zhang Yao rolled up her sleeves and picked up the rusted carving knife on the table, testing its weight in her hand. Her severe thigh injury had healed far better than expected thanks to Lin Ba's medicinal salve. Firelight glinted coldly along the corroded blade as she twirled it. She drove the knife downward. Metal grated against bone as she hacked a thick boar haunch clean in two. This one is for Wang Fong. Xia Yuqing nodded toward the girl huddled in the corner. Wang Fong froze for a moment, then hurried forward with tear-filled eyes. She cupped the small piece of meat in her hands, her voice shaking. Thank you, Yuqing. This one for Li Xiao. Li Xiao had not expected to be called so soon. She hesitated before stepping forward. As she accepted her meat, she glanced toward Xia Yuqing, equal parts grateful and surprised. This one for Yang Shuanghua. Yang Shuanghua adjusted her glasses and took her portion silently. Her trembling fingertips betrayed her inner turmoil. One after another, girls who had spoken up for them during Zhang Yao's high fever, or at least refused to join in persecuting them under Su Qingya's pressure, received their allocations. Each clutched their meat as if dreaming, terrified it would be snatched away. The pile on the table shrank steadily. Those whose names had not been called grew paler by the second. Zhao Min stood near the front row. Her eager, ingratiating look faded into growing anxiety. Her eyes stayed glued to the dwindling meat. Her throat bobbed, gnawing hunger twisting in her stomach. She licked her cracked lips, searching Xia Yuqing's face for any hint she would receive food. There was none. Xia Yuqing had not spared her a single glance. When only 2 pieces of meat remained, Zhao Min lost her composure. Yuqing. She strode forward, plastering on a cloying sweet smile, nothing like the woman who had heaped insults on them before. I always took your side. When Su Qingya targeted you, I spoke up for you. Zhang Yao did not lift her gaze, sneering. Spoke up for us. She brought the knife down hard against bone with a dull thud, calling us self-serving degenerates who fawn on men. That was your version of speaking well of us? Zhao Min's smile froze completely. That was, Su Qingya forced me. Lies. Zhang Yao slammed her palm against the table and shot to her feet. Her fierce glare forced Zhao Min backward 2 steps. Forced you? You shouted insults louder than Su Qingya herself. When you knelt by the farm gate begging Lin Ba to take you in, you never mentioned being forced then. Shaken by the outburst, Zhao Min's complexion alternated between red and white. She could not utter another word. Lu Jia took over distribution from Xia Yuqing and looked past Zhao Min toward Li Mengyao in the back. Li Mengyao. Li Mengyao jolted. Hope flared bright in her eyes. She pushed through the crowd, stretching her hand out toward Lu Jia. But Lu Jia only stared coldly at her, mocking. Do you believe you deserve this meat? Li Mengyao's hand hung, suspended midair. You joined Su Qingya to steal our fish, our wild fruits, and burned our emergency food stores. When Zhang Yao lay dying from wolf bites, did any of you give her a sip of water? Lu Jia's tone turned frigid. Now you smell meat and come running for your share? Where is your shame? It is all in the past. Are we not all in the same boat now? Li Mengyao stammered, face burning bright red. Same boat as you. Zhang Yao grabbed the carving knife and pointed its tip straight at Li Mengyao's nose. Her ferocious bearing sent the girl tumbling backwards onto the floor. When you stripped us and cast us out into the snow, you never talked about being in the same boat. Li Mengyao sat on the floor, deathly pale, speechless. At that moment, Su Qingya huddled in her tattered coat in the corner and let out a sharp, sarcastic laugh. Humph. It is only meat distribution. Xia Yuqing, the 3 of you only hold sway because you have curried favor with Lin Ba. What makes you so proud? The hall felt utterly quiet. Everyone stared at Su Qingya as if witnessing madness. She had suffered brutal humiliation not long ago, yet she dared to provoke them again. Had she truly lost her senses? Xia Yuqing turned slowly and looked at her without warmth. Su Qingya, do you think your earlier lesson was insufficient? Wrapped in rags, Su Qingya met her gaze, twisted defiance still burning within her. You cannot truly believe Lin Ba values you. You are merely his Crack. A deafening sharp slap cut off her words, sending her flying across the floor. Su Qingya crashed onto the wood-chip-strewn ground, clutching her stinging cheek, dazed. It had been Zhang Yao who struck her. Zhang Yao shook her stinging wrist and walked over to stand above Su Qingya, looking down on her. This slap settles the debt for when you stripped our outer garments and left us stranded in sub-zero snow. Speaking of this, she delivered another harsher backhanded slap. Crack. Su Qingya was sent flying sideways by the force. The back of her head slammed against the wooden wall with a dull thud. The corner of her mouth split open, and blood dripped down her chin. She collapsed in the corner like a heap of mud, too broken even to cry. This slap is for you stealing our frogs and our meat, for trying to starve us to death. Zhang Yao crouched down, grabbed Su Qingya by the hair, and lifted her blood-stained face right up to hers. She spoke each word slowly and sharply. Mark my words, from now on, if you so much as utter one word of defiance toward us, I will beat you every time I see you. I will keep hitting you until you learn how to behave. With that, she smashed Su Qingya's head hard against the wall, stood up, and brushed the blood grime off her hands. As she turned, Zhang Yao's gaze swept over Zhao Min and Lin Shui. The two women were already deathly pale, their legs shaking uncontrollably. That goes for the two of you too. Zhang Yao's voice was quiet, yet it sent an icy chill through their bones. Kneel. Zhao Min trembled all over and stared wide-eyed. Why, you said what? I said kneel. Zhang Yao strode forward abruptly. Her ferocious aura surged toward Zhao Min like a ravenous wolf, making Zhao Min stumble backwards several paces in fright. You laughed so gleefully when you stripped our clothes off back then. Now I'm giving you a chance to kowtow and apologize. You ought to be thanking your lucky stars. All color drained from Zhao Min's face. Her lips quivered, but she could not get a single word out. Zhang Yao, this is going too far. Lin Shui beside her finally summoned the courage to speak. Her voice shook, yet she tried to sound righteous. We are all classmates. We only did what Su Qingya told us to do. We were forced. She has already paid for what she did. What more do you want? Zhang Yao turned and fixed Lin Shui with a cold stare. The killing intent in her eyes choked Lin Shui's words in her throat. Forced? Zhang Yao looked at Lin Shui and suddenly smiled. It was a bright, hair-raising smile. Very well, since you claim you were forced, I'll give you a chance to. She picked up the small chunk of meat on the table and waved it in front of Lin Shui. Kneel down and kowtow 3 times hard on the floor, and this meat is yours. Haven't you been starving for days? Don't you crave meat? Lin Shui's pupils constricted sharply. She stared fixedly at the meat, her throat bobbing. Every muscle in her body screamed for her to yield, yet her knees felt locked by some invisible force and would not bend. Won't kneel. Zhang Yao's smile vanished. She tossed the meat back onto the table. Then keep starving. I'd like to see how long the lot of you can hold out. She turned back to Zhao Min. What about you? Will you kneel? Zhao Min bit her lip hard, her whole body shaking violently. Hunger gnawed at her stomach like countless ants. For days she had only drunk murky well water and eaten a few grass roots. Her body was so weak she could collapse at any moment. Lin Shui's face was ashen, her eyes red, but she still refused to bend her knees. Fine, neither of you will kneel. Zhang Yao bared her teeth in a grin, cracked her knuckles with sharp popping sounds. Then I'll use a method you can understand. The second her words fell, she charged at Zhao Min like a cannonball. Crack. A heavy open-hand blow landed square on Zhao Min's face. The force sent her flying. Blood sprayed from her nose and mouth in a crimson arc through the air. Zhao Min crashed heavily into the wooden table, overturning it. She lay on the ground, nose and mouth gushing blood, convulsing and letting out muffled whimpers. This slap is payback for when you helped Su Qingya steal all our emergency food supplies. Before Zhao Min could get back up, Zhang Yao hit her with another brutal backhanded slap. Crack. Zhao Min's scream never fully escaped her throat. She was knocked rolling across the floor, teeth flying out mixed with bloody foam. This slap is for when you suggested we 3 stand guard outside as bait for wolves. Zhang Yao seized Zhao Min's hair and hauled her upright. Her blood-smeared face met Zhang Yao's eyes blazing with vengeful fury. What happened to your insults calling us low-life dogs? Who is the one on their knees now, huh? Zhao Min's mouth was full of blood. She could not form a coherent sentence. She could only shake her head frantically, tears, snot, and blood smearing all over her face. Lin Shui, deathly pale, spun around and tried to flee toward the back of the crowd. Trying to run, Zhang Yao kicked her hard in the lower back. Lin Shui slammed into the wall and curled over in agony like a shrimp. You were the most eager one tearing off our winter coats that night. Zhang Yao walked over to Lin Shui, planted a foot on her shoulder, and pressed her face into the dusty floorboards. Now you know fear? I'm sorry, I'm truly sorry. Half of Lin Shue's face was distorted under the pressure. Tears streamed down through dust and grime, her voice broken. Zhang Yao, please, spare me. Spare you. Zhang Yao pressed her foot down harder. Lin Shui convulsed in agony, letting out shrill screams. When we knelt in the snow begging you to leave us one coat, did you spare us? Screams echoed through the hall, pounding against everyone's eardrums. No one stepped forward. The girls who had once aided Su Qingya in oppressing Xia Yuqing and her two friends now cowered in silence, wishing they could melt into the walls. They kept their heads lowered, not daring to breathe loudly, terrified of being the next target for reckoning. Xia Yuqing stood beside the table the entire time, watching the scene unfold. There was no pity or mercy on her face, only the long-suppressed relief of scores finally being settled. She remembered Su Qingya stripping them of their outerwear and driving them out into the snowy night. Zhang Yao's wounds had split open and bled. The three of them had nothing but thin t-shirts, stumbling into the dark wilderness amid the jeers of Li Mengyao and the others. A wild boar's fangs had pierced the darkness. Zhang Yao had stood before them and shouted for the others to run while she held it off. If Lin Ba had not arrived in time, they would all be dead out in the freezing night, slain by boar tusks. And Su Qingya would have mocked them, calling them pathetic dogs who had brought it on themselves. Now it was their turn to hold power. That's enough, Zhang Yao. Xia Yuqing finally spoke, her voice unnervingly calm. Zhang Yao glanced back at her, then slowly lifted her foot off Lin Shue's face. She brushed blood and dirt from her hands and stepped back beside the table. Zhao Min lay huddled on the floor, mouth full of blood, half her face swollen, shivering uncontrollably. Lin Shui was in worse shape. A clear shoe print marked one side of her face. Her lips split, afraid even to weep aloud. Xia Yuqing glanced at them, picked up the last 2 pieces of meat from the table, and tossed them onto the floor. Plop! The chunks landed on the dusty ground, coated in grime. You are not worthy of me handing you meat personally. If you want to eat, pick it up yourselves. Xia Yuqing's tone was cold, as if dismissing stray dogs. Zhao Min and Lin Shui froze. Their faces turned green, then white, then purple. Not a single person spoke up to plead for them. In the end, hunger and fear overwhelmed everything else. Zhao Min was the first to crawl forward. She scrambled over to the meat. Ignoring the dust covering it, she grabbed it and stuffed it into her mouth. As her teeth sank into the flesh, silent tears streamed down her cheeks, and she swallowed them along with the metallic taste of blood. Lin Shui hesitated for 2 seconds before she also broke down. Sobbing, she crawled over, snatched up her piece, and shakily crammed it into her mouth. Tears washed streaks through the dirt on her face. She looked utterly wretched, like a beaten stray. That's more like it. Zhang Yao snorted and turned toward Li Mengyao, who stood deathly pale at the back of the crowd. Li Mengyao, your turn. Li Mengyao shuddered violently. Her complexion blanched completely. She stumbled backward, only to be blocked by the people behind her. There was nowhere to run. Kneel! Zhang Yao roared. Li Mengyao's legs buckled, and she dropped heavily to her knees. You were so quick to steal, and so quick to insult people. Keep it up. Say the things you used to shout at us. Let's hear you. Li Mengyao knelt trembling. Tears streamed non-stop down her face. Her lips quivered for a long moment before she forced out fragmented words. I'm sorry, it's all my fault, please. What exactly did you do wrong? Xia Yuqing cut in. Her voice was moderate in volume, yet so frigid it made Li Mengyao's bones ache. Tell me, where did you go wrong? Li Mengyao shook all over. She pressed her forehead flat against the cold floor, her voice falling apart. I shouldn't have stolen your things, shouldn't have insulted you, shouldn't have sided with Su Qingya. Go on. Xia Yuqing's tone held no warmth at all. I shouldn't have kicked you when you were cast out, shouldn't have followed Su Qingya. I shouldn't have. Li Mengyao spiraled further into collapse, finally crying out. I was wrong. I'm truly sorry. Please, give me a chance. I will never do it again. Xia Yuqing fell silent for a moment. Then her tone shifted, turning faintly sardonic. Since you know you were wrong, I can give you a chance. Slap Su Qingya several times in front of everyone, and completely break ties with her, and I might consider giving you some meat. Li Mengyao lifted her head abruptly. Tears and snot streaked her face, but her eyes had changed. She looked at Xia Yuqing, then slowly turned towards Su Qingya huddled in the corner in tattered outerwear, covered in blood and filth. The woman who had once ordered her around, whom she had served loyally, was now broken, stripped of all her former arrogance. Li Mengyao got to her feet and walked step by step towards Su Qingya. Su Qingya stared in disbelief as her former, most loyal follower drew near. Li Mingyao, what are you doing? Her voice shrilled and cracked. Li Mingyao gave no reply. She stopped in front of Su Qingya and raised her hand, striking with every ounce of her strength. Crack! The sharp sound echoed across the hall. She followed with several more hard slaps, snapping Su Qingya's head sideways and leaving bright red handprints on her cheeks. Su Qingya, from today onward, I have nothing more to do with you. Li Mingyao's voice was soft but distinct. All those bad things I did were because you manipulated me. You led me astray. She turned away without meeting Su Qingya's gaze and hurried back to Xia Yuqing, her tone openly obsequious. I hit her. I did it. Xia Yuqing glanced at her, a flicker of disgust passing unseen in her eyes. She picked up a small piece of meat from the table and tossed it to Li Mingyao. Li Mingyao caught it fumblingly and clutched it like a priceless treasure. Su Qingyao pressed her hands to her stinging cheeks. She watched her former loyal subordinate devour the meat greedily. She looked at the other girls who had once clustered around her, all ducking their heads, desperate to distance themselves from her. She began to laugh. It was a shrill, bitter cackle, like the final cry of a broken-winged bird screaming out in the wilderness. Her laughter dissolved into sobs, then into silent tears sliding down her blood-stained cheeks. Do you really think this will let you survive? Su Qingya leaned against the wall, her voice hoarse and barely audible, yet burning with frightening fanaticism. Just you wait. Once I awaken my superpower, every single one of you, including Lin Ba, will kneel before me. No one paid her any mind. Everyone's attention was fixed on the meat, water, and salt being passed around. They were already calculating which side they ought to stand on from now on. In one corner, Chunshi slowly opened her eyes as she leaned against a pile of dry hay. She had not taken part in dividing the food, had not joined in the coercion, and had not spoken a single word. Yet she had seen everything that unfolded in the hall. Zhang Yao stepped back, glancing at the crumpled Zhao Min and Lin Shui with a cold snort. Xia Yuqing and Lu Jia chose not to press further. Though these female college students had endured betrayal and abuse and learned to be hard-hearted, they had grown up in modern society. They could not bring themselves to kill or torment people to the point of death. Those slaps and bitter rebukes had released most of their long-bottled resentment. A heavy silence hung over the hall, broken only by the muffled whimpers of Zhao Min and the others. At that moment, a faint, trembling voice came from one corner. Lin Ba, I've done what you told me to. All eyes turned toward the sound. Lu Yunyan huddled beside the cold wall, shivering violently in the bitter, cold temperature far below zero. She wrapped her arms tight around herself, her skin bluish from freezing. Her once elegant face was filled with humiliation and desperation. I finished the performance. You promised me food and water. Give me my share. Her voice cracked with tears, every word tearing away at her last shreds of self-respect. I earned this with my dignity. Xia Yuqing and her two companions turned their gazes toward Lin Ba, seated in the chair. Lin Ba sat leaning back, legs crossed in the worn chair. Amusement glinted deep in his eyes as he watched Lu Yunyan's abject state. A mocking smirk tugged at his lips. He rose unhurriedly and walked over to the remaining supplies. There lay a leftover scrap of wild boar meat, along with a small half-pack of salt. Lin Ba picked up the scrap of meat, grabbed a handful of salt, and walked over to Lu Yunyan before dropping them at her feet. The meat landed with a dull thud. This is your payment for the performance. Lin Ba looked down at her with an emotionless tone. But you always claim to be a teacher who cares for everyone. So you can distribute these to the other students who haven't gotten any meat yet. Lu Yunyan froze. She stared at the meat on the ground, then looked up at Lin Ba, panic flashing across her face. More than a dozen other girls in the hall had not received any meat. Starving for days, they fixed their ravenous gazes on Lu Yunyan and the scrap of meat by her feet. It represented their only hope for survival. Lu Yunyan swallowed hard and knelt trembling to pick up the dirt-stained meat. If she ate it alone, the small piece would barely fill her stomach and restore a little strength. But all those hungry eyes felt like blades pressed against her throat. She had spent countless class hours preaching unity to her students and repeatedly used collective interests to pressure Xia Yuqing and Lin Ba. Now that very moral burden had been thrown back onto her own shoulders. Clinging to the last vestiges of herself, image as a teacher, Lu Yunyan took a shaky breath. Calm down, everyone. I will divide this fairly. Everyone will get a little. Her fingers, stiff with cold, tried to tear the raw meat apart. Without a knife, the tough flesh would not split evenly. She ripped at it with all her strength and tore off only a tiny sliver no bigger than a fingernail, holding it out to the girl closest to her. Have this to tide you over. Before she finished speaking, The girl snatched the sliver, stuffed it into her mouth, and swallowed it without chewing. The tiny bite did nothing to ease hunger. It only stoked the raging emptiness in her stomach. It's not enough. How is this supposed to feed anyone? The girl screamed, eyes bloodshot. That shout lit the fuse, igniting the raw survival instinct pent up inside everyone. Zhao Min scrambled to her feet, ignoring the blood on her face, and lunged at Lu Yunyan. Why does she get some first? I want mine. Give it to me. Wang Feng rushed forward too, eyes red. You're giving us too little. Are you hiding the bigger piece for yourself? Give me meat. I'm going to starve. More than a dozen girls swarmed Lu Yunyan like ravenous creatures. Dry hands scratched and grabbed at her, all fighting to seize the small scrap of boar meat. Stop pushing. Line up. I will divide it. Lu Yunyan shouted in terror, but her voice was feeble against the frenzy for survival. Someone shoved her hard. Lu Yunyan stumbled and fell heavily onto the grimy floor. The meat slipped out of her grasp and rolled away. Abandoning her, the girls threw themselves onto the meat like wild beasts fighting over prey. They rolled on the ground, pulling each other's hair and scratching at one another's faces. For a mouthful of raw meat, all former friendship between classmates vanished, replaced by the ugliest, most primal human impulses. Lu Yunyan lay on the floor, her body throbbing with pain. Her thin clothes were torn further in the scuffle, her skin covered in dirt. She stared blankly at the girls brawling over the filthy scraps of meat and listened to their vicious shouts. Useless Lu Yunyan. You cannot even hold onto a piece of meat. Stop acting self-righteous. What right do you have to hand out food? She was keeping the biggest piece for herself. Every insult stabbed deep into her heart. She had sacrificed all her dignity for these people, only to receive groundless blame and vicious abuse in return. Her heart turned completely cold. Bitter hatred welled up inside her. She hated her students for their selfishness and cruelty. Lin Ba sat back in his chair, observing the chaos unfold. His divide and conquer scheme had worked perfectly. With just a scrap of meat, the last shred of teacher-student bond on the farm was completely torn apart, and the women's hypocritical decency was trampled into dust. As the crowd fought viciously over the last bits of meat, the blizzard outside seemed to grow even fiercer. Wind carrying ice and snow lashed against the broken wooden windows, letting out shrill howls. Suddenly, two deafening, terrifying beast roars cut through the gale and boomed right outside the hall. Deep, rumbling, and bristling with bone, chilling ferocity, the roars sounded like death proclamations echoing up from the depths of hell. The whole wooden house shook violently under the sound, and dust from the ceiling showered down onto everyone's heads. The women locked in combat froze as if a pause button had been pressed. Eyes wide with terror, they held their breath and stared rigidly toward the boarded, up front door. Thick blood scent and oppressive aura of death hung heavy in the air. Something horrifying was drawing near through the blizzard. Boom! The wooden door took another heavy blow. Its hinges creaked under unbearable strain, and chunks of ice caked in the cracks tumbled down. Light inside the cabin was already dim. With this brutal impact, the ramshackle house looked ready to collapse at any moment. Every person held their breath. Through gaps in the door and the shattered upper window frames, two hill-sized silhouettes became clear amid the swirling snowstorm. They were two enormous full-grown brown bears. Their thick fur was crusted with snow and ice shards. When standing upright, their height defied all logic, and they radiated a bloodthirsty, murderous rage. When their blood-red eyes caught sight of the black bear, skin cloak draped over Lin Ba, unbridled madness and fury blazed in the beast's gazes. The hunting scent lingering on the cloak had enraged these two apex wilderness predators who had come seeking vengeance. Roar! The deep, thunderous roar sent out shockwaves that shattered snow along the window edges. Ah! Screams erupted inside the cabin. The group of women, who had been tearing each other apart over raw meat moments before, completely crumbled psychologically in the face of mortal danger. Scrambling backward like terrified rodents, they shoved and trampled one another, wishing they had extra legs to run. Zhao Min lost control of her bladder. A sharp, acrid stench spread across the wooden floor. Her face drained of all color. She collapsed and scrambled to hide behind Lin Ba. Li Mingyao broke down in loud sobs. Her legs shook uncontrollably. She dropped heavily to her knees, clapped her hands over her mouth. Tears and snot streaming down her face as she begged Lin Ba desperately. Lin Ba, save me. Please save me. I don't want to die. If you protect me, I will serve you faithfully for the rest of my life. The hall filled with weeping women, all shrinking back. Yet several women, overcome by panic, lost their heads and shouted at the top of their lungs. This is all Lin Ba's fault. If he wasn't wearing that bear skin cloak, these beasts would never have found us. Exactly. He is so powerful, why won't he go drive the bears away? Does he want us all to die here? Smack! Smack! Two sharp slaps rang out across the hall. The two shouting women's heads snapped sideways. Blood trickled from their mouths as they tumbled to the ground. Xia Yuqing and Zhang Yao had struck them. Xia Yuqing's face was cold. Gripping a wooden stick, she showed no trace of sympathy in her eyes. One more useless word, and I will throw you outside to the bears right now. Zhang Yao pointed angrily at the women. You fools! How high and mighty you were when you drove us out. Now that danger is here, you beg Lin Ba for protection. Open your mouths one more time to spout nonsense, and I will deal with you first. Stunned by the beating, the women flinched and did not dare utter another word. Deep within the crowd, Su Qingya's face was swollen and her lip bleeding, yet her eyes flickered wildly. After all the despair and torment she had endured, deep down she saw Lin Ba as the undisputed strongest person in this wilderness, her only chance to survive. She edged backward toward Lin Ba while her mind raced. She knew Lin Ba was strong, but these were two massive adult brown bears. How could any human stand against such ferocious beasts? Lin Ba. Su Qingya crept close to him, her voice low and warped by desperate calculation. There is a back door in the backyard. We can escape through there. You take me, Xia Yuqing, and the others out the back. Leave Zhao Min, Li Mingyao, and the rest here to distract the bears. With them buying us time, we can definitely get away. To save her own skin, she had no hesitation sacrificing her former followers. Nearby, Lu Yunyan, soaked to the bone and clad in tattered clothing that left her shivering in the cold wind, still tried to make herself heard. Gritting her teeth, she appealed to Lin Ba with moral pressure. Lin Ba, you are the man here. Only you can protect everyone now. Great power brings great responsibility. If you step forward in this crisis, everyone will be grateful. You cannot stand by and watch us die. All these buzzing voices were maddening. Lin Ba frowned, especially at Li Mingyao's wailing and Su Qingya's scheming whispers. Lin Ba barely lifted his eyelids. He lashed out with two swift kicks. Bam! Bam! His strikes were lightning, fast, and devastatingly powerful. Li Mingyao, who had screamed the loudest, and Su Qingya, who had whispered her wicked plan, flew through the air like broken kites and crashed hard against the wooden wall more than 10 meters away. The wall shuddered, sending clouds of dust falling. Both collapsed on the floor, coughing violently, blood spilling from their lips. Their insides felt jolted out of place, and they instantly fell silent. Complete silence fell over the room. Other women who had been about to cry or beg clamped their mouths shut, faces ashen, terrified that even a small sound would earn them a kick from Lin Ba. Make another noise, and I will kill you before the bears get the chance. Lin Ba spoke in a flat, ice-cold tone. Having silenced the two troublesome women, Lin Ba turned toward the door. At that moment, Chun Shi stepped to his side, firmly gripping a sharpened wooden spear in one hand. Though her wounds had just been healed by miraculous medicine, her expression remained grave as she stared at the monstrous beasts outside. Lin Ba, these are no ordinary bears. They are mutated full-grown adults. Chun, she said grimly, you cannot handle both alone. I only have this wooden spear, but I can hold one of them off. If we fight together, we might stand a fighting chance. Behind them, Xia Yuqing and Zhang Yao hurried over, faces filled with worry. Lin Ba, it is far too dangerous. Xia Yuqing urged. You killed that sub-adult brown bear before, but you still got badly gashed across the chest. That was only a half-grown bear. Zhang Yao nodded sharply. Outside are two fully mature adult brown bears, each likely weighing over 500 kilograms. Even a single swipe from one of these beasts can shatter human bones. You cannot take them on by yourself. The rest of the women watched on, overcome with dread. They had heard how Lin Ba had slain the sub-adult brown bear, and many thought that had already been the absolute limit of human capability. To face two raging full-grown bears, no sane person would choose a head-on fight. Still, in response to Chun Shi's proposal and the other's genuine concern, Lin Ba waved his hand casually. Team up is unnecessary. Lin Ba pulled a forged high-quality steel battle axe out of his storage space. He flicked a finger across its sharp edge, producing a clear, ringing hum. He glanced over at Chun Shi, a faint amused smirk tugging at his lips. They are nothing more than two adult brown bears. I can handle them by myself. Chun Shi, your injuries have only just healed. I would hate to see you get hurt again in this fight. Chun Shi stared at him in total shock. Her normally cool, aloof face showed complete bewilderment. Hate to see me hurt. This man had struck down Su Qingya with cold brutality moments ago, yet he said something like this? Worse still, he acted as if two adult brown bears were trivial foes. Not far away, Li Xiao and Yang Shuanghua looked equally stunned. Li Xiao covered her mouth and whispered, "Has he lost his mind? Those are real full, grown brown bears. One blow from them can dent sheet metal." Yang Shuanghua adjusted her glasses, her eyes full of disbelief. No matter how exceptional his physical condition is, taking on two adult bears is suicide. Human bones and muscle cannot withstand impacts weighing close to a ton. Does he truly believe he is some kind of superhero? Most of the women shared Yang Shuanghua's opinion. In their eyes, Lin Ba had been blinded by past victories and fallen into reckless overconfidence. To walk out and fight two massive brown bears alone was nothing short of marching to his death. Lin Ba paid no mind to their shock and doubt. Having said his piece, he did not spare them another glance. He lifted the heavy black steel battle axe and strode steadily toward the barricaded door. Inside the wooden house, only the heavy thud of his boots against the floor remained, mixed with the thunderous roars of the bears outside.